The topic of our lecture today is what are the differences in effectiveness and speed among the various Buddhist practice methods. As you know, we only have a few decades to live. If we squander during these decades, it would be a waste. Or I really know that I should practice the Dharma and not waste it, but I choose the wrong method. You will find, in fact, that when you are about to be reborn and there are many things that are completely beyond your grasp, prediction, or control, you will feel that you have missed a lot. In this way, you may have to wait until the next life, or many, many lives later, to be able to practice the Dharma again. This will have a huge impact on us. Therefore, if we are determined to help ourselves, our relatives and friends escape from the cycle of reincarnation, or become Buddhas, or if we have low requirements and want to be reborn in a Buddha's pure land, we should be very careful in choosing our practice methods. Today I will explain in more detail what the differences are between them and how we should choose. Before we start, let's first review the key points from the last session. In the previous session, we talked about the second of the four dharmas of Sramanas: when someone scolds me, I do not retort. Buddha Shakyamuni asked us not to retort. What exactly is the definition of retorting? We explained this definition in the 40th episode of the Compassion series. That is, there are things that you should say based on reason, but there are situations where you cannot say them. Otherwise, it will become like scolding others. You can re-watch this episode. The definition of retorting is important. You must re-watch episode 40. Some say that practicing Buddhism seems very negative. When others scold me, I stand there like a piece of wood, enduring the scolding, which makes my own emotions and the emotions of my family members unstable. What is the point of learning Buddhism? You will have doubts. This is because you do not know the true Dharma. If you do, you will know when to tell others the reason and when not to retort. It is very clear. You can re-watch episode 40. We also talked about what our emotions are like when we are scolded. If you find yourself getting very emotional whenever someone scolds you, this means that you are only using ordinary Buddhist teachings to tell yourself. Buddha Shakyamuni said that there are four dharmas of Sramanas. If someone scolds us, we shouldn't retort. However, you are very angry in your heart, and you will find that it is not so easy to resolve it. What is the reason? This is because you have developed greed, hatred, and ignorance, but you do not know how to resolve them. You do not know why greed, hatred, and ignorance arise, so you cannot resolve them. Consequently, you will find that no matter how many years you have learned Buddhism, your temper has not changed. It is still as bad as before, or even worse. This is because you feel that the Dharma cannot help you. This is because you do not have a clear understanding of the Dharma. In fact, if we really want to be able to do what Buddha Shakyamuni asked us to do, when someone scolds me, I do not retort. Apart from having a clear definition of retorting, we must also clearly know the reasons why greed, hatred, and ignorance arise. We have talked about the reasons. We have already talked about the first reason, which is that you are too sensitive. You may have misunderstood what others say, and you do not know how to balance your emotions. So, you suddenly become agitated as if a flame has been ignited. There are 6 major psychological factors in this whole process. For details, you can re-watch episode 40. Another reason is that you may be filled with anger that is difficult to suppress, but you do not know how to deal with it. What kind of anger is this? Why can we not suppress it? These were explained in the previous session, episode 41. Let's talk briefly about why I must know the causes of greed, hatred and ignorance. Why can I not just recite the Buddha's holy names or mantras casually? Many people practice the Dharma this way. Why do I need to do so many things? Why do I lose my emotional balance? It is because I am sensitive. Why do I need to know why I am so sensitive? Why do I have anger suppressed in my heart? Why do I need to do all these analyses to succeed in the Dharma practice? Can I just recite the Buddha's holy names or mantras? You will find that it is not possible, in fact. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. When someone scolds you, you chant the mantra in the hope of calming down. But in fact, your heart is not balanced. You are only suppressing it reluctantly. So, why do we need to know so many things? Buddha Shakyamuni has once taught that if you do not resolve the greed, hatred, and ignorance in your heart, you will definitely fall. Because greed, hatred, and ignorance are a habit and temper that we have accumulated over countless lifetimes. We call it habit. What is its cause? It is because there is an error in your behavioral formula. But you have never tried to study, analyze, and modify it. So you have been using the same behavioral formula life after life. It will only get worse and worse. No matter how you practice the Dharma, you will not be able to achieve anything in the end. Or, you may disagree. I know how to chant mantras and Buddha's holy names. I've received empowerments. I know how to practice rituals. And I also know how to visualize myself as the deity. So, how can I not be able to accomplish in the end? In fact, there are many cases that have already told you that it is impossible to achieve it. Buddha Shakyamuni also says very clearly that you must cultivate your mind, because that is the root. He says that if you do not resolve anger, you cannot succeed in your Dharma practice. The reason is that anger is actually a manifestation of hatred. If you do not look for the source of this hatred, and do not correct the errors in your behavioral formula, the end result will be that you will fall into the 3 lower realms, hells, hungry ghosts, and animals. Later, I will tell you a case that Buddha Shakyamuni himself told. You may know more clearly that these greed, hatred, and ignorance cannot be resolved by only chanting mantras, or reciting the Buddha's holy names. If you do not resolve them in your Dharma practice, you have a great chance of falling into the 3 lower realms. This is a very scary thing. What do psychologists say? Psychologists believe that anger is the most primitive emotion in the human emotional system. That is, everyone has it in a primitive way. However, in human society and culture, we are constantly developing and receiving education, teaching you not to get angry easily, but to suppress it. This kind of suppression is not a real solution. So, what will be the result? Many people will develop emotional illnesses. When we learn Buddhism, no matter which religion or sect, it only tells you to suppress it and not to get angry. You only need to pray to God, worship Buddhas, chant mantras, or recite Buddha's holy names. In fact, such a way of dealing with things cannot really help you escape from samsara, or even prevent you from falling into the 3 lower realms. Because when your greed, hatred and ignorance explode, you will fall. In other words, if our practice method does not apply that awareness to correct our behavior, and we only rely on reciting mantras, entering into concentration, and chanting Buddha's holy names, we are unable to modify our behavioral formula. We still need to continue to reincarnate. This is an inevitable result. Therefore, you should be very rational, and do not blindly listen to what others say. After reciting the Buddha's holy names, or chanting the mantra, all problems will be gone. In fact, after chanting, you are still angry, right? When greed, hatred, and ignorance arise in the future, they will also pull a lot of karma, and you will fall and be reborn again. So, you must remember that the Dharma practice is not just about chanting mantras, entering meditational concentration, and chanting Buddha's holy names, but actually includes many other things. What is the reason for the uncontrollable anger? We talked about one of the reasons in episode 41. It is that you have some requests, the desires or needs that cannot get met. We used the famous hierarchy of needs theory by American psychologist Maslow, and gave examples to help you analyze which Dharma practice methods are most suitable for you. The first is physiological needs, the second is safety needs, the third is social, love and belonging needs, the fourth is respect needs, and the fifth is self-actualization needs. I also provided and taught some Dharma practice methods in the previous session. In the Dharma, are there any methods of practice that can satisfy and deal with these needs? We talked about the first and second needs in episode 41, the previous session. However, we only talked about the needs of personal safety and a stable life. Whether you apply the Hinayana, Mahayana exoteric, or Mahayana esoteric Buddhist teachings, these three different mindsets all use the same Sangha system. That is, to create a Sangha so that everyone can help each other and ensure personal safety. Everyone goes to beg for alms together and accepts others' offerings, and then shares them equally, so everyone has food, and life becomes stable. That is, the Dharma and Buddhist system can meet the second need, and there is no problem in this regard. However, when it comes to the need to avoid suffering, threats or diseases, you will find that these methods of practice are different. That is, whether it is the Hinayana or the Mahayana, they have different ways of dealing with it. We have already talked about the Hinayana in the previous session, episode 41. The Hinayana has already been discussed in terms of its views, practice methods, and outcomes. In particular, we explained its practice in detail in the previous session. Its practice methods do involve visualization. You must remember that if the word visualization is not included in your practice method, it basically cannot be called a complete, secure, and perfect practice method. It will lack many things. Calculating out of 10, if you do not have visualization, I can tell you that you have lost 9/10 of something. So, how do we judge whether some practice methods are feasible or not? It turns out that we have to see whether or not it includes visualization. The Hinayana does have it, and its 4 foundations of mindfulness are indeed visualization. The first mindfulness is visualizing the body as impure, the second mindfulness is feelings as suffering, the third mindfulness is visualizing the mind as impermanent, and the fourth mindfulness is visualizing the Dharma without self. I have already analyzed visualizing the Dharma without self in detail in the previous session. It is divided into the northern and southern traditions. I have given examples to analyze and explain each one to you. That is, the original practice methods of the Hinayana do include visualization, and they are also quite practical. This is how they use the 4 foundations of mindfulness to face pain, threats, and diseases. The problem is that they abide in the form that all feelings are painful. So, they think that pain is not a big deal, and one does not need be so nervous. Everything is supposed to be painful, so you just need to ignore it. If you ignore it, it cannot be resolved. The practice of Hinayana Buddhism is that because people abide in the form of suffering, they end up having more suffering. When faced with suffering, people want to escape. However, its visualization practice method will make some people suffer more, and abide in the form of suffering even more. It does not solve the problem. For more details, please refer to the 41st episode of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series entitled, How Can We Determine Whether a Religion or Sect Has the Ability to Help Sentient Beings Escape from Suffering Forever and Obtain Eternal Happiness? You will understand if you rewatch this episode. That is, all theoretical foundations no matter what theory it is, must be closely linked to the visualization method of practice. This can then be called a true Dharma practice method. In other words, the Dharma practice method cannot just be a theory. There must be a practice method, and the practice method must include visualization. If the interlocking theories in your visualization are biased, your visualization ability will be greatly reduced, and you may even get stuck. Instead of solving the problem, it will increase the problem. This is the real problem. I have analyzed the Hinayana in the previous session. The mind cultivating procedure we are teaching now, we have taught for many sessions, has a lot of analysis and visualization in common with the Hinayanas, visualizing the Dharma without self, one of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It turns out that they are all in common, but what we are teaching now is more complete and will be more comprehensive. In fact, they have something in common. It means that the Hinayana has its merits. It is practical, but because it lacks something, no matter how hard you practice, you cannot achieve Buddhahood. Now let's take a look. There are 84,000 methods of practicing Buddhism. But it does not mean that all of them are the same, and can definitely help you achieve the goal of escaping from samsara, or becoming a Buddha. No, they are very different in effectiveness and speed. Some of them cannot even achieve the goal, and cannot lead you to a Buddha's pure land. So, how can you escape from samsara? Escaping from the cycle of reincarnation is a higher level goal. So, we must choose carefully. There is a big difference in the effectiveness and speed. Before explaining these differences, let us first explain the Mahayana. In fact, Mahayana is divided into exoteric teachings and esoteric teachings. In terms of the order and degree of our Dharma practice, how long should we practice, and what should we practice in order to become a Buddha? For more details, please refer to a video on our Dudjom Buddhist Association, International's TV channel on YouTube entitled Classification of the Dharma Practice, The Essence of Emptiness. In fact, if you practice following the exoteric teachings, just practicing from the initial 10 beliefs to the final supreme mundane quality, or supreme attribute, of the 4 preliminary practices will take the first Asamkhya Kalpa. How long is an Asamkhya Kalpa? That is equal to 10 to the 51st power of the time for the universe to experience formation, existence, destruction, and emptiness. That is, it takes a very long time. The formation, existence, destruction, and emptiness of each universe is different. If you calculate it by the average, it is already so long that you cannot calculate it. If you practice from the 1st level Bodhisattva to the 7th level Bodhisattva, it will take another Asamkhya Kalpa. Then, from the 8th level Bodhisattva to the 10th level, it will take another Asamkhya Kalpa. But you still have not become a Buddha. You still need to complete the 10.5 level and the 11th level before you can become a Buddha. However, the esoteric teachings are different. The esoteric Buddhism claims that one can achieve Buddhahood in this present lifetime through the current body. However, I can tell you that the esoteric Buddhism has many methods of practice. It also has many different levels, from the lowest to the highest. If you make the wrong choice, you will never achieve Buddhahood in this life. There is a difference. I will teach you how to distinguish the esoteric Buddhist practice methods later. It will be taught shortly. That is, if your visualization is different from the content of the practice, even the slightest difference will lead to a huge result. Because the Mahayana exoteric teachings practice in the cause, instead of the result, there is such a big difference, and it will be a long wait. The esoteric Buddhism practices, transforming the mind into wisdom, and trains us to have 5 kinds of wisdom. The main direction of our Dharma practice is to enhance the awareness, so that we can cultivate and achieve Buddhahood quickly. That is, if you want to enter the final stage, the 11th level, the land of luminous light, Prabhakara Bhumi, to become a Buddha of complete enlightenment, you must connect with the awareness when first cultivating the 10 beliefs, because in the end your awareness must score 100 points to become a Buddha. Therefore, you have to cultivate the awareness from the very beginning. If you start with 0 point and cultivate to the end with 0 point still, how can you become a Buddha through the current body in this present lifetime? This is impossible. However, you disagree, saying that my guru says that he has conferred an empowerment which is very powerful. Why do I need to cultivate my mind? Why do I need to cultivate the awareness? It is impossible to become a Buddha by relying on empowerments, the guru's blessings, visualizing the deity's appearance, and meditating. In fact, you have to cultivate the awareness from the very beginning, because to become a Buddha you need 100 points of the perfect enlightenment, the awareness, without any deviation. If you only visualize the appearance of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from beginning to end, but do not know how to cultivate your mind, you do not have the awareness, and it is impossible for you to become a Buddha in this life. This is simply a fantasy. That is, you must cultivate the awareness from the beginning, whether you follow the esoteric or exoteric Buddhism. What are the 10 beliefs? From the 10 beliefs, we must cultivate the awareness when we start. This is discussed in the Names of Sages and Holies, the upper volume of the Sutra of the Garland of a Bodhisattva's Primary Karmas. The 10 beliefs are the mind of deep-seated confidence, Sada, the mind of thoughtful awareness, the mind of diligence, the mind of wisdom, the mind of meditational concentration, the mind of no return, Vinavadaniya, the mind of dedicating merits, the mind of protecting the dharmas, the mind of observing precepts, and the mind of keeping vows. You can refer to episodes 30, 31, and 32 of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series, which provide a special introduction to each belief. That is, when we begin to cultivate the 10 beliefs wishing to become a Buddha through the current body in the previous lifetime, and to get to the 11th level of awareness, we must start on the cause. When you cultivate the 10 beliefs, you must plant this cause and practice it together with the awareness. Only when you do it in the end will you have this result. If you cultivate the 10 beliefs without connecting with the awareness will not arise no matter how you practice. This is the relationship between cause and effect. When you cultivate the 10 beliefs, you must cultivate them with the awareness. Some people ask, how can we cultivate? The awareness is ethereal. How can we cultivate it? In fact, there is a whole set of teachings that have been taught. I have given it a general name, called the method of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice. There are 5 steps involved. The first is the mind cultivating procedure, which has 5 steps. The second is that you have to follow the oral pith instructions of the Diamond Sutra. The first is not to abide in any form. You have to do this first. Then, you should work with the second oral pith instruction of the Diamond Sutra, not to abide anywhere to arouse the mind. Then, you should apply the awareness to develop the 5 wisdoms. This is still not enough. Even if you have the 5 wisdom, you will not be able to become a Buddha. You must work with emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, to become a Buddha. That is, if you want to cultivate the awareness, you must comply with these 5 steps to be able to develop it. Let's look at it again. We talked about 2 needs, and now we will talk about the 3rd need. The 3rd need is love and belonging. How do the Hinayana practitioners view this? They use the escape approach. They think that it is enough to practice the Dharma themselves. They do not care about love or need to love others. They do not think of saving others after practicing the Dharma well. They only need to save themselves. They only have the renunciation mind and keep away from all the harassment of the crowd and practice on their own. They do not aspire to have the bodhicitta, which means they do not want to save people. This means that they do not have this kind of awareness, so it is impossible for them to become Buddhas. This explains why the Hinayana practitioners do not need to deal with the 3rd demand. They simply ignore it or even avoid it. How do they try to solve the 4th need, the need to be respected. This is even simpler. Buddha Shakyamuni used a method to help them solve it, and it was solved thoroughly. Buddha Shakyamuni stipulated that everyone must respect and support all Dharma practitioners. You must support them so that they can live in peace and happiness, without having to worry about food, clothing, shelter and transportation. If they have no worries about food and clothing, they can concentrate on Dharma practice. However, after they have cultivated, they will not come back to save you because they only care about themselves. They will just leave. Buddha Shakyamuni stipulated like this, saying that one could still gain blessings. Even if he does not come back to save you, you have helped a person, which is a merit. It is because of this stipulation by Buddha Shakyamuni that all these practitioners, even being of the Hinayana tradition, are satisfied and respected. As for the need for self-realization, it is even simpler. Its practice method is to visualize following the 4 foundations of mindfulness. One only need to focus on escaping from the samsara, and thinks that this is what it means to be a Buddha. The fact is that this is not attaining Buddhahood. It cannot be integrated into the Dharma realm at all. Its advantage is that it combines both practice and theory. I already explained its theoretical aspects, which have to work with its practice, similar to our mind cultivating procedure. They can all work together and be combined. So, in terms of speed, if we only talk about the speed of escaping from samsara, it is of a medium speed, which is considered very fast. Although it combines both practice and theory, the final outcome is not our final and most thorough outcome. In terms of the need for self-realization, it can be done. It has only one need, which is to escape from samsara, and it does not care about anything else. This is how the 5 needs are dealt with in the practice method of the Hinayana. However, in terms of emptiness, the awareness, main direction, practice methods, and the way to deal with the 5 needs, the Hinayana school of practice is actually unbalanced, as explained before. So, it is impossible to become a Buddha. Now let's talk about the Mahayana. What is the Mahayana like? Its main direction is to escape. Why? Although it is called transforming afflictions into Bodhi, you will find that its practice method cannot transform afflictions at all, because it actually uses the method of the Hinayana to escape, which was also discussed in episodes 40 and 41. Only parts of the Vajrayana, and only some teachers teach afflictions are indeed Bodhi. Most of them do not teach it. The esoteric Buddhism also talks about levels, and there are many levels. Only the highest level will teach, and use the method of the afflictions are indeed Bodhi. However, we at the Dudjom Buddhist Association, International, teach our disciples afflictions are indeed Bodhi, from the very beginning. Why? This is because, if you want to attain Buddhahood through the current body in the present lifetime, but you do not aim for the most correct main direction from the beginning, and you still slowly adopt the methods of the Hinayana and the Mahayana teachings, then when you are 50, 60, or 70 years old, or after practicing the Dharma for 20 or 30 years, it will be too late to switch to practicing afflictions are indeed Bodhi. By the time, your behavioral formula, all your thoughts and perceptions have become rigid. You have been practicing day and night until your entire being has become rigid. You want to change it, to afflictions are indeed Bodhi, but it is impossible. Therefore, most of the esoteric Buddhist gurus today do not teach this main direction, afflictions are indeed Bodhi, facing it directly. None of these. When they deal with facing it directly, at most they will confer you with empowerments, pass on a mantra to you, and tell you that you will get rich, recover from illness, and find a good job by reciting this mantra. That is the most they teach you. But this is not true cultivation of the mind, and it is completely the opposite of modifying your behavioral formula. This is something that goes in another direction, and even slows down your Dharma practice, which means that there will be more greed, hatred and ignorance. What exactly does afflictions are indeed Bodhi mean? It turns out that it refers to the afflictions are indeed bodhi in terms of your awareness. Not that you can get rich by chanting mantras. It is not like that. So, you must understand that not all esoteric Buddhist practices can help you become a Buddha in the present lifetime, only the highest level ones can. In terms of perception, whether it is exoteric or esoteric Buddhism, one must aspire to have bodhicitta. So, they can all eventually become Buddhas. However, the speeds and times will vary greatly, which is due to their different methods of practice. Before analyzing their methods of practice in detail, let us first look at the results of different main directions. I will not talk about the practice method for the time being. I will talk about the mentality and the main direction first. One is to escape, while the other is to face it directly. If you use the escape method, it means that your mind is in a separate state. What is a separate state? It means that when you see pain, illness, etc., you will quickly walk away. When you cultivate emptiness, it will be difficult to integrate. We need to integrate to enter the Dharma realm and become a Buddha. We have already talked about the Hinayana cultivating, renunciation, and everything must be renounced to escape. The Mahayana cultivates bodhicitta, but the mentality used in its bodhicitta is still to escape. In fact, this is the separation state. What the esoteric Buddhism uses is called the mind of integration. In addition to bodhicitta and renunciation, there is also an additional mind of integration. It requires all three. This mind of integration is actually a kind of mentality that you must have when you integrate into the Dharma realm. Without it, you cannot integrate into the Dharma realm. You cannot integrate the state of dualistic or multiplistic state into the state of oneness. It is a dualistic or multiplistic state. Some of my disciples omit the multiplistic, which is a huge difference. You must integrate the dualistic or multiplistic state into the state of oneness before you can become a Buddha and enter the Dharma realm. That is, you cannot have any separate state in it. Escaping itself is a separate state mentality, so they cannot be integrated. In esoteric Buddhism, if your mentality is not afflictions are indeed bodhi, they cannot be integrated either. So, you have to be careful. If you can apply it, it is a state called integration. You can integrate everything, including pain and difficulties. Since you face them directly, you can integrate them. That is, when we practice emptiness, it will be easy to integrate, and this is how we can achieve Buddhahood in this life. Since the final state of emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, is a unified state of oneness, this is why the practice method of the esoteric Buddhism is easy to achieve Buddhahood through the current body in the present lifetime. In other words, from the very beginning, your mentality cannot be wrong or deviate. If your guru does not teach you the mentality of facing it directly, and afflictions are indeed bodhi, there is no need for you to think much about it. You consider yourself to be very powerful, because you have received 100 or 1,000 empowerments, practiced 10,000 rituals, and your visualization is very clear. But I can tell you that it is useless. Because in the main mentality, you have already made all the mistakes. So, the main direction determines the speed, please remember. What is inertial Dharma practice? As you know, my guru taught me, and I practiced every day, for several years, more than 10 years, or even until I die. This kind of daily practice will accumulate something called habit. Once the habit accumulates, it will be difficult to change. Therefore, our daily life and practice methods must be unified. If they are unified, and the Guru teaches you to practice ununified, your mentality is not afflictions are indeed bodhi, and you do not cultivate the awareness, but only do empowerments and visualizations, then you will enter a separated state. Even if the ritual contains the content of entering a state of meditational concentration and integration, but in your daily life, you do not integrate. You only visualize integration when you sit, meditate, and visualize. But the two are not unified. That is, daily life and practice methods are not unified, which will be a big problem. Daily life and practice methods must be unified so that you can achieve Buddhahood in this life. If you can do this, you will succeed easily. However, most gurus, esoteric Buddhist gurus, do not teach this. As far as I know, they do not teach this. The disciples they teach are all very greedy, angry, and ignorant. What they care about is how many empowerments they can receive, whether they can get rich, or whether they can help solve the difficulties of daily life. They have never thought about becoming a Buddha. However, the problem is that using these methods, such quick methods, to solve the difficulties in your daily life is overdrawing the good karma in your virtual evil karmic portfolio. When all your good karma is used up and you are about to leave, you will find that you are facing great difficulties and predicaments. So, why do some people who practice the esoteric Buddhism fall faster? This is because they do not know how to cultivate their awareness. They only know how to overdraw, and do not know how to connect their daily life with the practice method, so problems will appear. Therefore, the guru's teachings determine your speed. If your guru does not teach you that afflictions are bodhi, you are destined to never attain Buddhahood in this life, no matter how many empowerments you receive or visualizations you practice. Do you worry every minute whether your mindset is wrong? Are you having more greed, hatred, and ignorance? You may as well worry about whether you will overdraw your merits. Will your future downfall be faster than those practicing the exoteric teachings? You may as well worry about this. So, why do I explain the practice methods in such detail in so many episodes? Because I want to save more sentient beings. I want them to apply reasoning and wisdom to analyze things, and not blindly fall into traps. This is why I want to talk about it tirelessly. Now I will talk about the exoteric Buddhism. What are the methods of practice in the exoteric Buddhist teachings? There are 10 Buddhist sects, and each sect has different methods of practice. The first 2 sects are the school based on Abhidharmakoabhyakosa, and the school based on Suchisiddhasastra, which are of the Hinayana school. I have already talked about the Hinayana, so I will not repeat it here. The Tiantai school of Mahayana Buddhism has a practice method called One Mind and 3 Visualizations. I am afraid that it has been lost. The practice method of the 3 treatise, Suanluan school, the practice methods I am talking about now refer to the ones with visualization content, not the theory, but the actual practice. If there is no actual practice, but only theory, you will never achieve it. The visualization method used by the 3 treatise, Suanluan school, is called the correct visualization of nothing to be gained. I am afraid that this has also been lost. The Vinaya school only has theories, mainly focusing on precepts, but no visualization practice methods. The Pure Land school's visualization method is called the 16 Contemplations of Amitabha. I am afraid that it has also been lost. Then there is the Dharma character, Dharmalaka school. What is its visualization practice method? It is the 5-fold Vijnanavada visualization. Again, it has been lost. Zen Buddhism has a set of visualization practice methods, called the visualization on the inherent nature, original face. It has also been lost. What is the visualization practice method of the Huayang, Avatasika school? It is the visualization of the Dharma realm, which is very powerful. It is about visualization the Dharma realm. I am afraid that it has also been lost. The last one is the esoteric Buddhism. Now, we really have to rely on the esoteric Buddhism. If we talk about the actual practice of visualization, without the esoteric Buddhism, it means that Buddhism is almost destroyed. If there is only theory, only a shell, you cannot expect to achieve it. There are countless visualization methods. There are many. They include emptiness, the awareness, the main directions, different levels of practice methods, and 5 ways of dealing with needs, all there. And those at the highest level can be balanced. However, some are still unbalanced. I will talk about these slowly in the future. Those unbalanced ones will pull you down. So, you must be careful. That is, in terms of actual practice and its visualization element, the exoteric Buddhism almost has none. Why do I not simply say none? Why do I say almost none? Because it still has a little bit. For example, the Zen Buddhists do visualize a bit of emptiness. Nevertheless, their other meditation method usually involves observing the breath. Observing the breath involves some visualization, but not a lot. What is the reason that all the methods of visualization have been lost? It is because they advocate reciting the Buddha's holy names, simple and effortless. And they consider this method of practice to be the best. Therefore, the most essential and effective practice methods and theories are lost. Why? As you know, what is human nature? It is greed. You boast that just chanting 1 or 2 Buddhist mantras will definitely allow you to go to a Buddha's pure land. Going to a Buddha's pure land is also good. I do not have to become a Buddha, as long as I do not fall into the 3 lower realms. Just chant the Buddha's names. You do not need to learn anything. And you do not need to understand the theory. As you know, Buddhist theories and sutras are very profound. You will feel dizzy after reading 1 or 2 sentences, let alone understanding them. If it had not been said that one could go to a Buddha's pure land by just chanting 1 or 2 Buddha's holy names, and if it had not been said and hyped, people would have really spared some time and energy to learning the Dharma. There are many sects, such as the Tien Tai school and the 3-treatise Suanluan school. With so many sects, one could always study some Dharma. Do you know that Guru Shandao of the Tang dynasty was the first to promote the benefits of the Pure Land school? He vigorously advocated, saying, as long as you chant the Buddha's holy name, you will definitely go to the Buddha's pure land. It is most important to chant when you die, and you will go to a Buddha's pure land immediately. This caused a large number of people to commit suicide. Why? It is so painful to live in this world. It is the 5 turbidities and evil worlds. However, Guru Shandao said that if you chant a Buddha's holy name when you die, you will definitely go to the Buddha's pure land. In this way, it is better to go to a Buddha's pure land early than to stay here and suffer. So many people committed suicide. This is recorded in history. It is a true historical fact and not a lie. I have talked about this before. Because they continue to brag. Many people increasingly feel that they do not need to work so hard to learn Buddhism. Learning Buddhism is so difficult. You have to understand it, practice it, and do a lot of visualizations. It is really troublesome. I only need to chant a Buddha's holy name casually, and then go to the Buddha's pure land to practice. I will get this done first. People were later stopped from committing suicide, and were advised not to be superstitious, and not to think that chanting the Buddha's holy names at the moment of death would definitely allow them to go to a Buddha's pure land. Even though this was stopped, they were not stopped from continuing to brag. What are the consequences? For Buddhism, the consequences are miserable. There are so many sects in the entire Buddhist system, because all sentient beings are greedy for speed and simplicity, and believe these boasts, believing that just chanting the Buddha's holy names will do, without detailed analysis. In fact, I will later teach you to analyze in detail what the practice methods are. You need to analyze it rationally and wisely to know it. You cannot just say that this sutra talks about this. You should know that most of the Mahayana sutras appeared hundreds of years after the Buddha's nirvana. Do you know this? Which ones are true and which ones are false? I think that you do not know how to distinguish. Just because someone boasts a few words, the practice methods of our Buddhism, especially the exoteric teachings, have been completely destroyed, resulting in the Dharma ending age. A fatal blow is caused by overboasting about the efficacy of chanting the Buddha's holy names. With the advent of the Dharma ending age, why has Buddhism become less popular? Why have so many sects' visualization methods been lost? It is because everyone thinks that chanting the Buddha's holy names is enough. There is no need to visualize, no need to work so hard, and no need to learn so many theories. Therefore, no one learns, and no one practices the Dharma. All have been lost. The reason is very simple. It is lost because of sentient beings' greed, hatred, and ignorance. What are greed, hatred, and ignorance? There are two aspects. One is the greed of the person who teaches the Dharma. He is greedy for more followers. So, he keeps saying that the Buddhist sutras say that just chanting the Buddha's holy names is enough. In simple terms, this is a misinterpretation of the sutras. Another greed is the greed of the people who study Buddhism. The person who teaches the Dharma is greedy, and the person who learns the Dharma is also greedy. What do people who study Buddhism crave? Of course, they want to learn the simplest and most effective things, not others. In this way, the two types of people cooperate with each other, causing Buddhism to decline. Since the Mahayana Buddhist sutras appeared hundreds of years after the Buddha's nirvana, not when the Buddha was alive, are the Buddhist sutras that appeared hundreds of years later really what the Buddha said? You need to use your wisdom, common sense and theories of Buddhism, and use your reasoning and wisdom to analyze. Only in this way can you get a correct answer. Otherwise, you will be easily deceived. Some Buddhist teachings have been misinterpreted, or the first paragraph of some sutras is true, and it is really what the Buddha said, but there is a paragraph inserted in the middle, and there may be another paragraph inserted at the end that is not what the Buddha said. It is also possible that half of the content in a paragraph is true, while the other half is not. This is called deceiving sentient beings by mixing fish eyes with pearls. Therefore, we must verify the content before we can know the truth. It is not appropriate for you to boast or over-exaggerate certain contents, not only in the Pure Land school, but also in the esoteric Buddhism. Otherwise, it will lead to deviation of the Dharma practice method. I tell you that sentient beings will be harmed terribly by you. Do not think that you are very pleased with this. You have many followers and a great sect. The Pure Land school is so powerful now and dominates the temples of the exoteric teachings. However, the entire Buddhist Dharma will decline. This is the most important thing. You will cause Buddhism to enter the Dharma ending age, so it is not appropriate to brag. Please teach it realistically. Otherwise, everyone will lose their rationality and analytical ability, and you will cause great trouble, causing the entire Buddhist Dharma to enter the Dharma ending age. It will really cause trouble. How should we view the connotation of the practice method? The first is on the theoretical level, and the second is on the practical level. When choosing a practice method, do not choose one that only has practice, but no theory, nor one that only has theory but no practice. You should choose a practice method that has both. A practice method must be combined both theory and practice. Only a combination of the two can be considered a practice method. Let me give you an example to make it easier for you to understand. The Bodhisattva precepts are a theory, which says, for those who are suffering and have no one to rely on, do not be stingy with money, teachings, etc., and not give them. That is, if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, you should not be stingy with money, teachings, etc. to those who are suffering, have no one to rely on, and have no one to help them. It is not allowed for you to not give them. Not going to help someone who should be helped means that you are supposed to go to help him, assist him, and accompany him, but you have not. This means you should have gone but have not. Seeing someone ill but doing nothing to support them means when you see your friend or relative is seriously ill, but you do not pay attention to him. Seeing someone in pain, but not helping him means when you see someone in pain, but you do not help him to get rid of his pain. Not helping others with their worries. When you see others in distress, you do not help them. Not giving money or things to those who ask for them. When someone asks you for money or things, you do not give them. You accept these precepts, which is at the theoretical level. But when you put them into practice, when you really want to cultivate, everyone comes to you, the phone keeps ringing all day long, and you cannot keep up with your emails and messaging apps. All they do is ask you for money and to accompany them. If that is the case, then you cannot even take care of your family, your career, or even eat. In short, if you do not go when a phone call comes, they will say that you are violating the precepts, and that is a big deal. That is, these are just theories. So, how should we practice them? I have a disciple who wrote an email to ask me. Let's see how he asked the question in his email. He said, I have a question, and I would like to ask Guru for your guidance. Recently, I have been reading information on the 6 paramitas on the internet. What are the 6 paramitas? The 6 paramitas means the 6 ways to lead you to the other shore, to become a Buddha, and to liberation. What are these 6 ways? They are almsgiving, keeping precepts, endurance, diligence, meditational concentration, and wisdom. You should use these 6 methods to do everything. All actions of 10,000 and above should be done in accordance with these 6 methods. This is called the 6 perfections. He said, I've read it. I've also looked at the 3 noble principles that you have taught, Guru. I want to integrate them into my daily life. What are the 3 noble principles? First, you need to develop the bodhicitta. Second, you need to practice the threefold emptiness of inherent existence. What is the threefold emptiness of inherent existence? Let's use almsgiving as an example. You are the person in charge, the protagonist of almsgiving, giving alms to others. When someone accepts your alms, that person is the recipient. We give it a name, called the alms received, and the almsgiver is called the almsgiver. The alms are related things, belonging to the third party. That is, there are the main character, the supporting character, and the object. Together, these 3 things are called the 3 wheels. We should not be attached to these 3 things. Do not keep thinking that if you give a bowl of rice to others, you will have 1 less bowl. In other words, do not be attached to such stinginess, these greed, hatred, and ignorance. You must visualize it as empty, without any attachment, and then we have to dedicate all merits. When all 3 are done, it is called the 3 noble principles. The disciple said, in my daily life, I try to do exactly what you are teaching me now and practice the body path. However, regarding almsgiving, disciple understands that almsgiving is used to let go of one's greed. In fact, I want to tell this disciple that giving is not as simple as letting go of greed. You also need to use giving to enhance your awareness, because if you are in accordance with the threefold emptiness of inherent existence of the 3 noble principles, you can enhance the awareness. Then you can accumulate blessings and merits for yourself. If you give alms, you will have blessings. If you complete the 3 noble principles, you will have merits. This is what you can cultivate to have both blessings and merits. This is to help you cultivate and complete your Dharma practice, not just to let go of greed. He added, but once I saw someone asking for donations for medical treatment online, I hesitated. He thought, should I give money to him to treat his illness? He said, in the end, I didn't make any donations, nor did I feel any compassion. He did not feel pity for this person, nor did he feel any compassion for him. He did not do it. He asked, is this because I don't have enough compassion? As a result, I began to doubt my own Dharma practice. I turned a blind eye to this and knew that I had the ability to help, but I did not do so. I felt that I was violating the principle of letting go of greed. With the development of information technology, I often see advertisements for donations or charities. If I turn a blind eye to them every time, I will feel that my Dharma practice has been compromised. Should disciple not abide in the form here, and accept that everyone has his own cause and effect? One has his own cause and effect. Should I care about it? But if I think this way, it seems that I can't cultivate compassion, and it won't help me cultivate compassion. This is a blind spot that appears at the level of practical training, a doubt, unclear understanding, and not knowing how to apply. Now I will explain. You must remember that when a Dharma practitioner sees any disaster or misfortune, it is not just about collecting donations. I have taught this to my disciples before, but they must have forgotten it. I will teach it again now. No matter you hear on TV, in newspapers, or in any other media that there has been an earthquake somewhere and many people died, or any disaster, or someone accidentally got hit by a car while crossing the road, or something like that, or even someone asks for your help, you must follow the following procedures. Firstly, you must pray for them as soon as possible. Even if you cannot put your hands together to pray, you must pray in your heart, wishing that they can quickly obtain the help of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and other assistants to resolve their problems. This is the first step. That is, in your prayer, the first thing is to make a wish, and the first thing in the wish is to help them solve their problems, asking Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to quickly help them solve their problems. You should add the word quickly to it and quickly help them solve their problems. You should pray for them first. However, you have to remember to add a condition to the content. If his situation is real, not exaggerated, and not fictitious, you have to add this condition, and you also have to do it with visualization. It is not just prayers. I have taught my disciples to do this visualization before. Usually, during the Upavasata, when disciples recite the precepts and repent, I will teach them, which cannot be made public and uploaded to the YouTube. This is because some people's repentance cannot be made public. So, you will not have seen it on YouTube. In fact, I have taught this several times internally. But some disciples, who have just taken refuge, may not have received this teaching. So, they do not know. The disciple who asked me this question had just taken refuge, so he did not know. Now I will say it again. You must pray immediately. You may say why we need to add a condition to praying. The love we give to others should be compassionate and unconditional. Guru, why do you ask me to add a condition? Let me tell you. I have just talked about the 6 paramitas. When practicing the 6 paramitas, one of them is to practice almsgiving, so you need to pray. Observing the precepts means that you must observe the precepts and you cannot violate them. You should not violate the precepts yourself, and you should not make others violate the precepts. This is called observing the precepts. If you indulge others' greed, hatred, and ignorance, when others beg from you, you do not investigate whether they are real beggars or fake beggars, and you put the most precious and valuable thing, a whole pearl for example, into their hands without caring about anything else. This will encourage their greed. Before long, your behavior will cause the whole city to become beggars, and no one will work. Any person pretending to be crippled or blind will have money. Then the whole city will lose its productivity, and everyone will want to be idle and have money, which is not allowed. That is, you have to observe the precepts. Observe the precepts means that you cannot indulge your own greed, hatred, and ignorance, and you cannot indulge others' greed, hatred, and ignorance. In other words, you have to have conditions, even for a prayer. You have to be diligent. Whenever you see these things, you have to pray. Your prayer cannot be one-sided. It must be bilateral and balanced. In other words, you need to add one more condition, which is called wisdom. That is, of the 6 items in the 6 parameters, at least 4 of them must be achieved: almsgiving, observing the precepts, diligence, and wisdom. You cannot indulge others' greed, hatred, and ignorance. Indulging others' greed, hatred, and ignorance is also a violation of the precepts. The person you indulge will eventually get into trouble. When he gets into trouble, you will also share the bad karma he has gained from getting into trouble, and you will also have to bear a share of it. Why? Because you indulged him. He used the money you gave him to take drugs, or to engage in some gangster activities, such as murder and arson, and he even found a few helpers to do it together. You will have a share of the negative karma they have created. You really have a share of it. That is, when you are helping others, you should also use wisdom and observe the precepts. You should also be diligent, and be more diligent in understanding things, and do not be lazy. You think that he is only asking you for 1 million. You have billions, so it is no problem to give him 1 million. How do you know what he will do with your 1 million? In other words, you need to understand it. If it is a problem that can be solved with donations or some abilities, but do you know whether the person who asks for help is genuine and tells the truth? Or is it a deception? You do not know how to distinguish. In order to avoid encouraging their greed and abusing these methods to deceive more people, if it is easy to succeed with you, they will find a few more people to do the same, and more people will be harmed, and you will have to bear the share of it. So, you can do it in 2 ways. You can make a symbolic donation. That is, if you do not have time to investigate so many things, just make a symbolic donation. These symbolic donations will not indulge him in more greedy behavior. Maybe it is only enough for a cup of tea, or a cup of coffee, that's all. Or you can just pray to help. A prayer is a must. You must pray. Otherwise, you cannot cultivate your compassion at all. You will not even have the humblest sympathy. So, you must pray. But can you pray in an indulgent way? No. Because you ask Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to do something, especially the Dharma protectors, who have not yet left the 3 realms and still have greed, hatred, and ignorance. You go to them for everything, and they are confused by you. But they find that those people are not worth helping. If you have any more difficulties in the future and you call them again, they will not respond to you. Therefore, you must have conditions. Do not think that you can ask Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for help, because they are compassionate, and will not take away your blessings. Therefore, you can ask for help indefinitely. This is not allowed. You must have wisdom. Otherwise, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will question your Dharma practice and consider that you do not know how to observe the precepts, do not know how to have wisdom, are lazy, and do not bother to investigate the person's background. You only know how to randomly ask people to save someone's life. This is not good. This is called having no wisdom. So, remember, you cannot randomly call Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for help. Do not think that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will not care. This is not a question of whether they will care or not. This is a question of you who do not have wisdom and act recklessly. You will get into trouble. Do not forget where you are now. It is not the Dharma realm, not in the state of oneness. In the state of oneness, nothing can happen, but in the 3 realms whatever you do will go wrong, and every cause will have a result. Be careful about your result, and do not let yourself fail to practice the Dharma, or use up all the good karma in your virtuous, evil karmic portfolio. It will be serious if Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, especially the Dharma protectors, no longer pay attention to you. Therefore, you need to cultivate compassion and wisdom together. Your compassion and wisdom must operate in a balanced manner. Avoid encouraging the greed of sentient beings and abusing requests. You must not be an accomplice. If you are an accomplice, you will suffer karmic consequences. If it is someone you know, you also need to understand the truth of the matter. If you know the person, you can find out more easily. Do not encourage his behavior. If you encourage him, he will act recklessly. And you should provide assistance according to your ability and level. Is it all requests will be answered? You need to use wisdom and precepts to make the decision. It is not a must but requires a balance of wisdom and precepts to deal with it. You may ask, is this different from the unconditional love that people talk about? That is right. There is a difference. Unconditional love means that I love all sentient beings equally. Every time they come to me for help, I will immediately respond with almsgiving, observing the precepts, diligence, and wisdom. When you combine observing the precepts and wisdom, there will be some differences. In order to truly help sentient beings, you should stop indulging them. Do not let them be like mud forever, fall into the Avachi hell in the end and never be rescued. In this way, you will be harming them. You should give them some awareness. You may give them some encouragement and praise through words, so that they can cheer up, be self-reliant, and no longer rely on others. You can help them in many ways, not just give them what they ask for. This is to spoil them. So, this needs to be done within your ability. If you are not able to do it, do not force it. Otherwise, what will happen? It will affect your own Dharma practice, and you will lose your balance. You must adapt to your own ability. If he asks you to give him $10 million, and you have $12 million. But after giving him the 10 million, the remaining 2 million may not be enough for your son to go to college. No matter how many sons you have, 2 million will not be enough. As such, there is a chance that your son will be implicated. Originally, your son could become a person with lofty ideals and could help more people. But because you must observe the precepts and help that person, you gave him $10 million. This is not allowed. You must do it within your ability. Otherwise, it will affect your Dharma practice. So, it all depends on one word, balance. You need to solve it with wisdom. And it is best to use a little to achieve a great result. It is not that you should give someone $10 million just because he asks you to. You cannot indulge him. You need to balance your own ability, the needs of your family, etc. There are many things to consider. The most important thing is your Dharma practice. How you allocate your time is also very important. You should take not affecting the Dharma practice as the primary standard. Should you put your family first or Dharma practice? I can tell you that it is your Dharma practice. If you do not practice the Dharma well, you will not be able to save your family. It is useless to only help them in the most urgent situation. The most important thing is to be able to help them in the future and in the long run. Therefore, you should put your Dharma practice as the primary standard. If you spend most of your Dharma practice to help others, and do not even do the meditational Dharma practice, you will not be able to succeed in your Dharma practice. However, there is one benefit. If you fall into hell in the future, someone will save you and give you a bowl of rice. They are the people you have saved. But can they save you from reincarnation? Of course not, because you have not practiced the Dharma, and they have not practiced the Dharma either. In this way, how can anyone know how to save people from hell? Therefore, you must remember that the exoteric Buddhist teachings are different from our esoteric teachings. The exoteric teachings do not involve visualization during the meditational Dharma practice. They do not know how to practice the Dharma. They only chant Namo Buddha Amitabha a few times while walking, or at most recite sutras during a Dharma assembly. They do not quite know how to explain the sutras, which means that it cannot enhance their awareness. That is of little help. They have done something, which is better than doing nothing. There is little merit. However, it is very weak and not powerful enough. We need to practice the Dharma vigorously to be able to escape from the cycle of reincarnation. If we fall into hell, we also need to practice the Dharma vigorously to be able to escape from hell. Do you think that you can escape from hell by practicing the Dharma with just a little effort? The exoteric teachings only practice the theoretical 6 paramitas, so it takes 3 great Asamkhya Kalpa to achieve it. If you practice the esoteric Buddhism, I can tell you, you have to practice in body, speech and mind all 3, not just one of them. Buddha Shakyamuni has taught, everything is created by the mind. He says that the thoughts are the most important. That is, the practice of visualization is the most important. Buddha Shakyamuni has already taught this. You can rewatch episode 29 of the Compassion series, which talks about how to resolve jealousy, hatred, and revenge with the Diamond Sutra's oral pith instructions. This has already been taught in this video, and it was said by Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Thoughts are the most important. If your practice method does not include visualization training, you really do not have to expect to achieve it, because it will be too slow. The esoteric Buddhism must take into account the practice of visualization. That is, you need to practice the Dharma, do some visualizations, and the meditational Dharma practice, which requires time. If you spend all your time on the 6 paramitas, which becomes the practice the exoteric Buddhism, you have to know when to stop and be balanced. Otherwise, you will not be able to escape from samsara and become a Buddha as quickly as possible. You must practice. So, the allocation of time is different. Because every extra day you stay in the 3 realms is one more day of danger of falling and being reborn. Do not think that the 3 great Asamkhya Kalpa are unimportant. The 3 great Asamkhya Kalpa can mean never-ending and infinite, which means you can never escape from the cycle of reincarnation, and you will often fall into the realms of hells, hungry ghosts and animals. You will definitely fall. Buddha Shakyamuni also fell many times during his journey of Dharma practice. How can you be more powerful than Buddha Shakyamuni? No, he also fell many times. How could you not fall? You would also fall. In order to have many virtuous blessings, you need to practice almsgiving. You may not fall into the lower realms in the next few lives, but you will eventually fall into the lower realms. In other words, do not think that practicing slowly over 3 great Asamkhya Kalpa is good for you. You cannot afford to do it slowly. The longer you stay, the more dangerous it will be. Of course, the sooner the better. So, remember, you must also take into account the visualization in the meditational Dharma practice. Do not waste all your time only on the 6 paramitas. Your visualization is actually one of the 6 paramitas. Please allocate your time properly and keep it balanced. Let's look at it now. That is, the connotation of our Dharma practice method must include both. Both must be fully combined to practice. This is called an authentic Dharma practice method. In short, remember that you cannot rely solely on the theory. Assuming that you now have both theory and practice, then you need to compare other things. It is its elements. What elements are there to compare? First, the effect. What effect? Can it be applied in daily life? It is the same as the Bodhisattva precepts I was talking about. Can you apply it? Does it need to be taught by a guru? Yes. It is not enough to just recite the Bodhisattva precepts. You need a guru to teach you how to put them into practice. Among the 6 paramitas, at least 4 of them are used to help us implement the Bodhisattva precepts. Both visualization and prayer are required. The prayer also needs to include some conditions to be called complete and perfect. It turns out that so many things are needed. Yes. It is just such a set of theories. If you want to put the 6 paramitas into practice, you need a practical method. If you do not have a guru to teach you, how do you understand? If you read the books yourself, you will not find any of these things to be taught. They are not taught. Even on the YouTube, this is my first time teaching. I have taught this several times internally, but this is the first time I have uploaded it to YouTube for the general public. That is, such a simple theory actually contains so much knowledge. If you do not have a guru to teach you, you really will not understand it. You should see if your current practice method can be put into practice in your daily life. Can that theory be applied in your daily life? Which methods of the 6 paramitas have you applied? When you apply them, can these 6 things be balanced? Is there any teaching on how to deal with the balance of these wisely? Whether it is exoteric or esoteric Buddhism, they all rely on the 6 paramitas and bodhisattva precepts as the foundation of Dharma practice. The question is that the exoteric Buddhism does not have other visualization practice methods and only rely on the 6 paramitas and bodhisattva precepts. So it will take 3 great asamkhya kalpa to accumulate merits. The esoteric Buddhism, on the other hand, adds a lot of other visualization practice methods on the basis of the 6 paramitas and bodhisattva precepts. So, it can achieve success quickly and even become a Buddha in this life. However, it is important to remember that some esoteric Buddhist practice methods include greed, hatred, and ignorance and are unbalanced. You must avoid these. Otherwise, something bad will happen. Therefore, the practice of visualization can help you become a Buddha in this life as quickly as possible. However, the key point is the word balance. Can you achieve balance? Now let's see what the second point is. The second point that you need to pay attention to is the element of the practice method to achieve the goal. Is it chanting? Is it visualization? Visualization includes form and formless. Is it meditation? Some visualizations in Zen meditation are formless. If you observe your breath, it is a form visualization, but some are formless. Does the practice method work with visualization? Does it include the word balance? Does it include wisdom? Does the practice method taught conform to the precepts? The method I taught you earlier requires visualization when you see any disaster, and then you have to add conditions, which conforms to the precepts. It complies with the precepts because of observing the precepts. The precepts do not allow you to indulge others in greed, hatred, and ignorance. So, it complies with the precepts. It is wise and balanced, and it includes visualization. Therefore, the method I taught you earlier is considered a suitable, good, correct, and practical method that combines theory and practice. This is how it is judged. However, you must remember that no matter what method you use to practice the Dharma, be it exoteric Buddhism or esoteric Buddhism, you must work with the method of cultivating the mind in Dharma practice. But as far as I know, whether it is the exoteric Buddhism or esoteric Buddhism, the exoteric Buddhism has none of these and does not even have these theories. I know that the Hinayana has some. As I have already said, it has some procedures for cultivating the mind. Even in the esoteric Buddhism, only those at a high level have methods for cultivating the mind and Dharma practice. But when it comes to mind cultivating procedures, they are not taught. I can tell you that most, 99% of them, do not have these. Without them, it will be very different. Without them, it is impossible to become a Buddha in this life. You can refer to the Compassion series on the Dudjom Buddhist Association, International's TV channel on YouTube, where episodes 20 to 41 explain the methods of mind cultivation and Dharma practice. These are the true contents, and those visualization practice methods are what we call the exterior shell. There are many gurus out there who will confer you with many empowerments and teach you how to visualize. The first step is to visualize this, the second step is to visualize this, and the third step is to visualize that. What are all of these called? They are called external shells. They are just shells without any connotation. What is the connotation? The method of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice is the connotation. The two must match, the external shell and the connotation must match. If they do not match, you cannot be successful in your Dharma practice. And this will lead to the failure of your Dharma practice method. It is useless to visualize yourself with 3 heads and 6 arms. Many gurus are incapable of teaching these. Why? Because they do not read the sutras, do not talk about the precepts, and do not talk about wisdom. They only say that if you practice my method, you will be able to succeed. Now, many people out there speak like this. The teachings of the lion-faced Dakini are very powerful. The face is like a lion. That bodhisattva is very good. The mantra is very powerful. We can overcome and kill all our enemies, and everything we do will go smoothly. They only talk about these things, and these are called the external shells. Is there any connotation? Are there any methods of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice in it? No, there is none of these in the entire ritual. I know how to practice it. I have practiced the teachings of the lion-faced Dakini, so I know. I have practiced many of the esoteric Buddhist teachings. What connotations do they have? What are they? I know them very well. That is why I want to tell them that if the esoteric Buddhism only talks about these, it will definitely enter the Dharma ending age. We must talk about cultivating the mind and Dharma practice, and cultivating the awareness. Otherwise, the true Dharma will soon cease to exist. It will be gone if it is defeated by people. And it will be gone if it is ruined. It will be gone if the YouTube channel is banned. Do not expect to learn the true Dharma in the future. If you want to fall into the 3 lower realms, and do bad things, such as blocking the YouTube channel, you will definitely fall into the Avachi hell. Why? Because the true Dharma no longer exists. No one will tell you the truth and you will never know how to distinguish what the method of cultivation is. Then you will be very miserable. So, you must remember that if you only have visualization, but there is no connotation in the visualization, that is, if there is no method of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice, it will be useless. There are many sects that do not have meditation. Doesn't Zen Buddhism have meditation? It does talk about emptiness. However, the emptiness it talks about is of a theoretical nature. The theoretical nature must be combined with the practical method. What is the practical method? It did exist, called the visualization on the inherent nature, original face, which is the practical method. Practice and theory must be linked. Combing the two can then be called the Dharma practice method. However, it is gone. There is no practical method, only theory, because it has been lost. So, it is gone. The esoteric Buddhism has the practice methods of visualization and the theory, which is very comprehensive. Its theory is very powerful, very detailed and profound. Let's take a look. There are 2 things to look at when it comes to effectiveness. The first is whether it can be applied in daily life. The second is what method is used to achieve the goal. And what is the second element of the practice method we want to compare? It is its speed, the speed at which it can help you. Is it the speed of sound or visualization? Why is visualization called the speed of light? If you only visualize some lights, then at the very least you are as fast as the speed of light, or even faster than the speed of light. Why? Because you use visualization. When you visualize light, it is usually faster than the speed of light. But what is the use of traveling a few times faster than the speed of light? Let me tell you. If you travel several times faster than the speed of light, it will take you a long time to reach a galaxy outside the Milky Way. That is, it is not fast enough. I only want to go to Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land, but there are 10 trillion star clusters in it. It is so far away, and it takes a long time to get there. So, what method should we use? We should use visualization. What is the fastest way to visualize? I can tell you that it is to visualize emptiness, or the awareness, which is the fastest. Let's talk about the speed of sound first. The speed of sound is slow. Chanting uses the speed of sound. Its method of communication is through use the speed of sound to communicate. What Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can be sensed. If you work with the visualization, it will be faster than the speed of light. If you are chanting Buddhist sutras, it will depend on whether you understand the content of the sutras and to what extent you understand them. This determines the speed of your awareness or mind improvement. If you are chanting the Buddha's holy names, it depends on whether you are in line with the visualization content to determine your efficiency and speed. If you are chanting mantras, this is different from others. Mantras have frequencies. This depends on which Buddha or Bodhisattva has the same frequency as the mantra you chant. Why do Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have frequencies? Bodhisattvas within the 3 realms will definitely have frequencies. A Bodhisattva has his own vibrational structure of Dharma practice. The ability of his mind to visualize, and the visualization itself will produce vibrational frequencies. For example, if this Bodhisattva visualizes saving sentient beings, he will visualize a beam of light covering the entire 3 realms in the hope of saving sentient beings with affinity. If a Bodhisattva has the ability, he can do this. However, there are many types of Bodhisattvas. I mean the most powerful ones. So, when the light covers you, you are chanting his mantra, the frequency is the same as his, and it matches, you can immediately sense him, contact him, and he will come to help you. How to help you? Is it unconditional help? Or is it a reversal of the law of cause and effect taught by Buddha Shakyamuni? It does not matter if you kill people or set fires, as long as you can sense him and he will come to help you. Is that right? Of course not. When he comes, the first thing he will do is to look at your virtuous, evil karmic portfolio. If you have a lot of good karma, then there is no need to ask. He will definitely help you. Where do you want to go? What is your wish? He will do as you wish. He can definitely help you. But if you have done very few good deeds and many bad deeds, such as murder and arson, then all your karmic creditors will line up in front of you, scolding you, wanting to snatch you away, wanting to kill you, and asking Buddhas and Bodhisattvas not to interfere. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas cannot do anything about it. You do not have good karma, so they cannot help you. You can only be taken by your karmic creditors. It will be like this. Can Buddhas and Bodhisattvas help you unconditionally? Within the 3 realms, they cannot reverse the law of cause and effect. Buddha Shakyamuni has made it very clear that the law of cause and effect cannot be reversed, and the power of a Buddha cannot reverse it. I have talked many times about the sutras citing Buddha Shakyamuni's own cases. It is impossible to do so. So, why do we need to chant? If I have a lot of good karma, but I do not know how to use it, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can help me use it. If my bad karma is emerging, but my good karma cannot be released, they can help me to release the good karma first. If the frequency of chanting mantras can match that of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they will come to help me. This can be done. This is called the frequency. When a Buddha enters the Dharma realm, the state of oneness, there will be no frequency. After leaving the Dharma realm, and if the Buddha himself uses a form, even if it is just some condensation of light, it is a form. In this way, as long as something is condensed, No matter how fine the matter is condensed, there must be a frequency. Each Buddha has a different vibration frequency. When we chant mantras, we are actually chanting their vibration frequencies, hoping to resonate with them. How can we resonate with them when we are so far away? Yes, because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are very compassionate. They often visualize a lot of light to cover the whole three realms. As long as they are within their light, any sentient being who chants their mantras can easily resonate with them. This is the difference between chanting mantras and chanting the Buddha's holy names. Some Buddha's holy names also have vibration frequencies, and if the Buddha's vibration frequency happens to cover them, they can also be saved. This really depends on the situation at the time to determine their efficiency and speed. So, chanting mantras and Buddha's holy names is helpful, but can this help you escape from samsara? Can it help you become a Buddha? I am afraid not. It depends on yourself, the ability of your mind, and your ability to understand emptiness. If not, Buddha Shakyamuni would not have to accept so many disciples and teach them to practice the Dharma. He could bless them and make them all escape from the cycle of reincarnation, which is not feasible. It means that you have to rely on yourself. However, can chanting mantras and reciting the Buddha's holy names help a little? It certainly can. If there is good karma in your virtuous, evil karmic portfolio, and you can sense it and ask a Buddha, he will help you according to your good karma. Let's look again what is stated in the Amitabha Sutra. It says, Shariputra, who was one of the Buddha's great disciples. He said to his disciple, if there are virtuous men and women who hear the name of Buddha Amitabha and hold the name for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. What does it mean? That is, it could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days. In short, it is to recite continuously. If 7 days, why not if 8 days or 9 days? This is actually a metaphor. That is, we do not know exactly how many days it takes. It could be 1 day to 10 days, or 7 days. 7 days is actually a cycle. We do not know how many cycles, or how many 7 days it takes. In short, you have to recite it continuously. Without any disturbance of thoughts, means that your mind should not be distracted and you should chant continuously. Eventually, the frequency of the Buddha's holy name you chant will connect to that Buddha or Bodhisattva, and you will be able to sense his arrival. When that person is about to die, Buddha Amitabha and all the saints will appear before you. That is, he will appear. If you can sense him, he will appear. This is true. In other words, it is like connecting the antenna of a TV, and you will see the picture. So, if you connect the antenna of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or a certain Buddha or Bodhisattva, you will see him. Appear before him means that he will appear and be seen by you. When a person dies, his mind shall not be inversed. However, only when your mind is not confused can you be reborn in the pure land of Buddha Amitabha. How do we explain these two sentences? What does, without any disturbance of thoughts and inversion of the mind mean? It means that you need to chant the Buddha's holy names until your mind becomes stable. What does this involve? It requires the visualization. How can you help your mind become stable? Only visualization can do it. Only visualization can do it. Can you not just chant? After chanting for 1 minute your mind is already wandering, not knowing where it has gone. You need to do the visualization. What should you visualize? Visualize the 16 contemplations of Amitabha. Does it exist in reality? It has been lost. In fact, this passage has already told you very clearly that it requires visualization. That visualization is called the 16 contemplations of Amitabha. You need to achieve, without any disturbance of thoughts and inversion of the mind, and keep on visualizing and chanting, but we do not know how many days it will take. Why does it take so many days? Because you use the speed of sound, and using the speed of sound will take so many days. And we do not know whether the speed of your chanting and the degree of your concentration are in line with the visualization. Is it well coordinated? If it is well coordinated, it will take 1 day, but if it is not well coordinated, it will take many 7 days. We do not know how many cycles it takes. In other words, you must coordinate with the visualization. However, because there is no detailed teaching, it has no effect. The sutra has already hinted at the word visualization. If the word reciting is not accompanied by the character mouth, it means visualization. Contemplating a number of things is called visualization. In fact, all the sutras have mentioned that the method of cultivation cannot be separated from visualization. Separating your Dharma practice method will be very weak. Clearly stated in the Sutra of Visualization of the Buddha of Infinite Life, there is a visualization of the 16 contemplations of Amitabha. However, it has been lost. One must do the visualization. Why do you keep saying that there is no need for visualization? Just chant the Buddha's holy names and it will be fine. This is deceiving people, and deceiving people in this way will get people into trouble. Everyone will think that they do not need to do anything else. And if they do not do anything else, they will not be saved. You must do the visualization and other Dharma practice methods. You must do those practices of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice to improve your awareness. Otherwise, you will definitely fall. So, do not lie to others. Lying will get people into trouble. For 1 day to about 7 days means the speed of sound, which cannot be instant. I want to know what can be instant. To be instant, it is not the speed of sound. It is the methods of visualization to be the fastest. Visualization can have the opportunity to achieve the effect of being instant. But it also depends on what kind of visualization you use. Later, I will talk about what kind of visualization can do it. What does this mean? What does the sutra say? What is the next sentence after, without the inversion of the mind? You will be reborn in the pure land of Buddha Amitabha instantly. What does instantly mean? Instantly means immediately. If you want to achieve being instant, you must work with visualization. Visualization can be instant. This is not only faster than the speed of sound, but also faster than the speed of light. Because it is faster than the speed of light, no matter how far away the pure land of Buddha Amitabha is, even if it is beyond billions of nebulae, you can reach it. This requires visualization. In other words, the sutra does not deceive you. But you must not forget that many Mahayana sutras were not published until hundreds of years after the Buddha's nirvana. You must know how to distinguish between the true and the false. How do you distinguish? Guru, is the passage you are quoting true or false? I can answer you that it is true. This paragraph is true. Why is it true? Because it speaks of something rationally. It says that it takes 1 day to about 7 days, which means it is at the speed of sound. It says that one must be, without any disturbance of thoughts and inversion of the mind, which means it requires visualization. That is, it is completely consistent with the theoretical and practical aspects of the practice methods we talk about. And all the rationales are completely consistent. This is because only visualization is faster than the speed of light, and the speed of sound is slower than the speed of light. If you want to go to a place as far as a Buddha's pure land, you must use visualization. It is clearly stated here that this is necessary, which proves that this section is true. However, are the other sections in this sutra true? You have to read each section. But I will not read it again. I have read it, but I do not want to talk about it. because I have offended many people. But in order to save sentient beings, I would rather offend so many people. If they want to ban me, I have no choice. If they ban me, I do not have to speak anymore, which is also good. I can cultivate on my own, which is also good. These things must be in accordance with the cause and condition, and I cannot worry too much. But in order to save you, I want to tell you frankly. If you ask me, I will tell you that this paragraph is true. This paragraph must be true. Why? Because it is reasonable, rational, scientific, and consistent with all rational analysis. So, it is true. This paragraph is in line with the principles of nature, the principles of science. That is, visualization is faster than the speed of light. These are all in line with the principles of Buddhism. Therefore, it is not deceiving you. If you want to be reborn immediately in the Western Pure Land of extreme bliss, you really need to visualize, and He will definitely be present before you, just like your TV antenna receiving TV images. You will definitely be able to receive them. So, remember, do not misinterpret the Buddhist sutras. Misinterpretation will harm and get many people into trouble. It will destroy the entire Buddhism and cause it to enter the Dharma ending age. Therefore, do not misinterpret the Buddhist sutras. Now let's talk about the visualization, which is faster than the speed of light. What visualization is the fastest? The kind of visualizing emptiness or the awareness is the fastest. Only this kind of visualization can achieve the instant effect. What is the instant effect? The effect of instant Buddhahood. The effect of instantly going to a Buddha's pure land, which has been discussed earlier. However, the effect of instant Buddhahood requires visualizing emptiness or the awareness. There are two different kinds of instant. Do not make a mistake. The content of visualization is actually divided into many levels and grades. The different levels of the three realms involved in the visualization will lead to different effects and speeds. Therefore, when I teach my disciples to visualize the refuge tree, I already lead them to the top of the form realm to visualize. Why? Because when you lead them to visualize, you want to connect with each other, and you need to visualize the vibration frequency there. If it is too low, the effect will be easily dispersed, and you will not be able to escape from samsara. And because of your karma, sometimes it will pull you back. Only if you go to those places will you not be pulled back by karma. So, if you want to connect, you must go to those places. That is why I teach my disciples to visualize the refuge tree, which is different from what others teach. Others do not talk about these levels, but I will. Why? Because I understand it. I know what to do. I must teach this level. I also must explain where the refuge tree is, at which level you can visualize the refuge tree, and which levels should not visualize. I will teach like this. Why? Because the levels of the refuge tree are different. Their pulling powers are different. Their pulling powers to you are different. When you connect with them, the effects and speeds you produce are different. Therefore, the content of the visualization is very important. It really depends on how the guru teaches. If he teaches incorrectly, you will have no idea how to distinguish. If you did not listen to me today, you would not know how to distinguish. Everyone is teaching the same thing, but why are there differences? There are differences, because the things you visualize and the directions you take are different, which will also lead to differences. It is because visualization means connection, which I have already said. The pulling powers of different areas in the three realms are also different. You really have to look at which area, and do not visualize randomly. The different levels of meditational concentration and clarity of the visualizer will lead to different effects and speeds. This is easy for you to understand, and many people also understand it. However, many gurus do not know that the visualization they teach their disciples is actually different in different realms and regions within the three realms, and they do not quite understand this. Therefore, as a guru, it is very important to choose the most suitable and best practice method to teach to disciples so that they can achieve success quickly. It involves whether you will continue to reincarnate for endless lives and fall into the realm of hungry ghosts or animals to suffer. It involves a very significant impact. The impact on your well-being is too long-term and too far-reaching. The impact is huge, so it is very important. When choosing a guru, you really need to choose one who understands both theory and practice. Otherwise, if he only gives you empowerments and meditation rituals without teaching you the theory, you will definitely fail. The method of visualization is not about quantity but quality. The third point is to see how thorough your result or goal is. Is it to be reborn in a Buddha's pure land? To escape from samsara? To become a Buddha? Or is it just to avoid falling into the three lower realms? We have to consider them all. We have to consider so many things. Regarding the theoretical and practical aspects of Hinayana Buddhism, their theories are flawed because it does not cultivate bodhicitta. But its level of detail and practicality are very high. I have already analyzed it. The speed is medium. But the result is not thorough enough. If it is not thorough enough, fast speed will still be useless. The theoretical aspect of Mahayana exoteric Buddhism is very broad. But in terms of actual practice, the methods of practice are very few and ineffective, and the speed is very slow. It is very easy to fall into the endless cycle of reincarnation, which is very miserable. What will be the result? If you are as capable as Buddha Shakyamuni, and finally become a Buddha, after going through 3 great Asamkhya kalps, then this is considered thorough. But are you as capable as him? Can you get through so many traps? That is the question. The theoretical level of Mahayana esoteric Buddhism is not only broad, but also very deep. Let me give you an example. When talking about life and death, it talks about what stages you will experience after death, and what directions you take to help yourself, etc. I can tell you that the esoteric Buddhism really is the best, second to none. The exoteric Buddhism cannot compare to this. The exoteric teachings do not talk about what death is like. They do not know how to talk about it. The difference is too great. Just talking about the discussion of death, you already know how broad it is. What is deep? Only the esoteric Buddhism can do that. There are many practice methods, which are very effective. The speed is very fast. And the results are thorough. However, because it is so good, many people try to pass themselves off as gurus to teach others. Many people fail because of this. 9 out of 10 people get into trouble at the hands of fake gurus. I can tell you that it is very difficult to find a true guru. You need to be very wise and patient, and can sit and listen to me speaking for more than 2 or 3 hours without feeling bored. There are very few people like this. This explains why many people fall into the trap of fake gurus, but only a few don't. This is the reason. As I have said, many Mahayana sutras appeared hundreds of years after the Buddha's nirvana. So you must know how to distinguish the true from the false, whether it is the Mahayana exoteric sutras or the esoteric tantras. Let's talk about the second need for security, which includes the need to avoid pain, threats and diseases. We will repeat it here. The Hinayana has flaws in its theory, so it is easy to abide in the form of suffering. Its shortcoming is that it often views feelings as suffering, which makes some people abide in the form of suffering. The shortcoming of Mahayana exoteric Buddhism is that there are only a few methods and the effectiveness is very low. Consequently, they also adopt the method of escape to deal with pain, threats and diseases. This is the way that the Hinayana and Mahayana deal with pain. The Vajrayana faces it directly, and it is easy to deal with. What kind of empowerment do you want? What kind of method to practice? To cure these pains, threats or diseases, it has all of them. Whether it is the Medicine Buddha mantra or many other taras, they can help you solve many problems. So, in this regard, it can meet the needs of all sentient beings, and there are different methods to practice. The third need is the need for love and belonging, which includes friendship, love, and affiliation, especially the need for love and belonging. In the Hinayana, there is no need for love, no compassion, and one only wants to save oneself. As for Mahayana Buddhism, it is believed that monks do not need love, nor do they emphasize friendship and affiliation. They do not have these things. This is its way of dealing with things, which focuses more on escape. However, as for the esoteric Buddhism, because it is very deep and direct-facing, it is very easy to deal with. Even in love, there is Kurukula, who can help you solve this problem. Your belonging problem, your father or mother does not love you. There are also some teachings that can teach you to practice. But can these teachings balance your greed, hatred, and ignorance? This is the key. The fourth point is the need to be respected. In fact, no matter which sect or vehicle one belongs to, since Buddha Shakyamuni ordered that all Dharma practitioners should be respected. They are all respected, so they do not have this difficulty. The fifth point is the need for self-realization. For the Hinayana, their speed is fast, but not thorough. For the realization of one's own dreams, it is considered fast. As for the Mahayana exoteric Buddhism, I can tell you that dreams cannot be realized. If you want to realize the dream of becoming a Buddha, it may take an indefinite time. 3 great Asamkhya kalps are already considered good, but there are many that exceed 3 great Asamkhya kalps, so it is not feasible. For the realization of our needs, the Mahayana esoteric Buddhism is fast, but it depends on whether it is the highest level. If you say that your requirements are very low, as long as you do not fall into the 3 lower realms, the exoteric teachings may not be able to help achieve that. However, the esoteric teachings can do it. If you want to go to a Buddha's pure land and you do not work with visualization, and only chant the Buddha's holy names, this is impossible to achieve it. In other words, in terms of realizing dreams, there are many aspects that the exoteric teachings cannot do. All are available in the esoteric Buddhism, and they are feasible. In terms of the connotation of our Dharma practice method, the effectiveness, speed, or thoroughness of the results, we must make comparisons. This is very important, and you must compare them in the way I am teaching you now. If not, and you have chosen the wrong method, upon death it will be that a moment's mistake can lead to a lifetime of regret. When you reach the end of your life, you can no longer make choices, and you will waste your life again. When you die, you will not know when you can start over again. You cannot start over again. So, you need to understand these things now and choose carefully. If you compare Dharma practice methods to transportation tools, I can tell you that the Hinayana is like riding a horse, and Mahayana is like a rickshaw. Also, because it is designed to save people, the vehicle has to have one more person sitting in it, who has to use his own strength and his own feet to pull the vehicle. This is slow and may not save people, or even himself. It is very slow. In the case of the esoteric Buddhism, some teachings are as fast as a sports car, and some as fast as a rocket. That is, if you want to become a Buddha, or escape from samsara, you need the teachings of emptiness. Which are the most complete teachings of emptiness? It is the Great Perfection, which is the most thorough. Why? Because it works with the afflictions are indeed Bodhi mentality. Other Mahayana teachings may not be in line with these. They are not in line with these. So, at most it can be as fast as a sports car, which is very different from a rocket. There are many levels of teachings in the esoteric Buddhism. Only the teaching of the great perfection be this fast. No matter which method you use and no matter what kind of transportation you use, you must remember that your Dharma practice method must be coordinated with the cultivation of the mind and Dharma practice program, the whole set of the program. Otherwise, you will be in vain. That is, there will be no connotation. If you use the Hinayana methods, they cannot become Buddhas. The highest they can achieve is only to become arhats and escape from the cycle of reincarnation. If you follow the Mahayana exoteric teachings, it will take at least 3 great Asamkhya kalps to become a Buddha. 3 great Asamkhya kalps are already considered the fastest. If you are the slowest type, it will take you forever and endlessly to become a Buddha. If you are an esoteric Buddhist practitioner, you do not have the afflictions are indeed Bodhi mentality in your daily life, and do not practice the highest level visualization of emptiness, your speed of attaining Buddhahood will be relatively slow. Only by following the teachings of the Great Perfection, and practicing them in your daily life can you attain Buddhahood through the current body in the present lifetime. So, you must understand clearly that they are different. Also, you must understand all the various causes and conditions that work with the Dharma practice methods. What are the causes and conditions that work with these Dharma practice methods? Let's take a look. If we really want to compare Dharma practice methods to transportation tools, we must follow the law of cause and effect to coordinate these causes and conditions. If you do not know how to coordinate these causes and conditions, and you say you practice the esoteric Buddhism, you will not be able to succeed in your Dharma practice. Let's first look at what the causes and conditions are. All of them require resources of blessed fortunes. Because you have to ask for the Dharma, no matter whether you are a Hinayana, Vajrayana, or Mahayana practitioner, you have to ask for the Dharma, which is just like you need a means of transportation. You want to buy this sports car, you want to buy this rocket, you want to buy this rickshaw, or you want to buy a horse, all of that require money. What do we call it in Buddhism? Resources of blessed fortunes. If you do not have any, you cannot buy this means of transportation, or you cannot request the Dharma. Why? Let's discuss it a little further. If you want to practice the esoteric Buddhism, no matter what level you are at, you need a guru, that is, a special person to guide you. Why? When you drive a sports car with such great power, and if you do not have someone to teach you, you will start the engine, crash the car and kill yourself. You must learn how to drive. You must learn its performance and how to control it. Rockets are even more like this. If you do not know and just press the button randomly, the explosion will definitely kill you. In other words, you must have someone to guide you. Of course, you need to have money to buy a rickshaw, to ride a horse, or pull a rickshaw. Even if you have a horse, you still need to learn how to ride it. You also need to find someone to teach you to ride a horse, which also costs money. Or, can you learn by yourself from the Buddhist sutras? Yes, you can. If you follow the Mahayana or Hinayana methods, you can learn from the sutras by yourself. But because there are no practical methods, no one will teach you. Your Dharma practice will be very slow. However, you will learn. As for listening to free lectures, it is okay. I also put a lot of videos on YouTube. In fact, you can learn some. But it is far from enough. If you find a guru or someone to teach you, then of course you need to make offerings. If you are self-taught, then you can make offerings according to your circumstances. These are the causes and conditions that you must have to obtain transportation or practice methods. That is, you must have resources of blessed fortunes, and you must have offerings to achieve it. If you are halfway through, you have obtained transportation. Your sports car is sitting in the garage and not running. Your rocket is sitting there and not being used. Then what do you want it for? You have already spent a lot of money. You just need to practice with it. You need to use it. So, do you need to hire someone to teach you? That is, halfway through, even if you can use your merit to buy a vehicle, you still need to find someone to teach you and monitor how you practice. Are there any detailed instructions for you? Are there any oral pith instructions for you? Then, when you run it, you need petrol. Rockets need a lot of fuel, and fuel is expensive. Even a rickshaw needs to be repaired. If you have a horse, you also need to find things to feed it. In other words, you need to have resources of blessed fortunes, and you need to continue to make offerings. After you have all these, it is actually just a shell. What else do you need when running? You need to have the inner meaning, which is your cultivation of mind and Dharma practice program. All the esoteric Buddhist practitioners nowadays only have a shell, without the inner meaning. So, they cannot succeed through their Dharma practice, and will even fall. Why? Because they have more greed, hatred, and ignorance than the exoteric Buddhist practitioners. So, they are likely to fall and faster. This is what Guru Rinpoche said, like a snake in a bamboo, it is either up or down. They are like a snake in a bamboo. It is either up or down. Why are there only two exits? Because you are greedy for everything, and do not cultivate the awareness. When greed, hatred, and ignorance are too much, you will naturally fall faster. This is the law of the nature. It is based on the degree of your greed, hatred, and ignorance, that you are pulled into a specific magnetic field, and you cannot escape. Therefore, you must follow the cultivation of the mind and Dharma practice program. Otherwise, you will definitely fail. You also need to practice diligently and develop your abilities, which requires resources of merits. What are resources of blessed fortunes? What are resources of merits? The two are different. You must clearly distinguish between these two. Otherwise, you will cultivate everything wrong. Resources of blessed fortunes mean that you have accumulated a lot of resources in your past lives or now, and you have enough money to make offerings. That is, you have enough money to buy these practice methods, or you have enough offerings to offer to the Guru so that he can teach you this method. These are all using resources of blessed fortunes. However, if you buy a car and do not drive it, it will rust. It will be useless and will only be wasted. You need to practice it, that is, to practice the Dharma. If you continue to cultivate and practice the Dharma, your awareness will be improved. The ability of your mind to create will be strengthened. No matter which Buddha's pure land you want to connect to, you can connect to it in an instant. This is where your power lies. This is a merit, where your power lies. However, you must see this clearly. The Guru is the starting point when you want to request the Dharma. The intermediate process is the period for you to practice and apply these Dharma practice methods until your final success. To become a Buddha, go to a Buddha's pure land, or escape from samsara. In fact, you need a Guru to help you. Why do you need a Guru? I talked about the simple 6 paramitas earlier. It turns out that when you come across natural or man-made disasters, you need to be taught the key points of prayer and visualization by your Guru. Otherwise, upon death, after decades of Dharma practice, you say that you have a kind heart, and have done the 6 paramitas, and a lot of almsgiving. But it turns out that you have indulged many people in becoming increasingly greedy, angry, and ignorant. You have to bear the consequences of their evil karma. You will find that you are not as well off as you imagined after almsgiving. It turns out that some are good and some are bad. The bad ones are quite miserable, and you will find that this is the case. Later, I will give you an example to let you know how miserable it can be. That is, the Guru is very important. From simple teachings like the 6 paramitas to the most advanced teachings, like launching rockets, and using the highest level of the great perfection to cultivate, all require the guidance of a guru. Buddha Shakyamuni also said this. However, what I am referring to is a real guru. 9 out of 10 gurus today are fake. If you worship your fake guru very much, you will get into serious trouble very quickly. I want to make this clear here. Let's see what Buddha Shakyamuni said. In the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 lines, our Shasrik Prajnaparamita Sutra, I deliberately chose a sutra of the exoteric Buddhism to prevent the exoteric Buddhists from refuting and refusing to listen if it was not said by Buddha Shakyamuni. Therefore, I do not use an esoteric tantra to talk about it. I like to teach with the exoteric Buddhist sutras. Someone asked the world-honored one, that is, Buddha Shakyamuni, how should a beginner bodhisattva abide in the Prajnaparamita? I have just started to aspire to be a bodhisattva, and want to practice Mahayana Buddhism. How can I abide in Prajna, which means wisdom? Paramita means to reach the other shore. How can I abide in the wisdom that can help me reach the other shore, that is, to become a Buddha? How should I learn Prajna Paramita? How do I learn this? How should I learn this wisdom to become a Buddha? This is how Buddha Shakyamuni answered him. I quoted it from the original text, all from the sutra. The Buddha said, disciple Subhuti. His disciple was called Subhuti. Buddha Shakyamuni said to disciple Subhuti, if a bodhisattva, who has just started his Dharma practice wishes to learn Prajnaparamita, he should get close to a virtuous teacher. Beginner is the starting point. When you begin to learn Buddhism, learn Mahayana Buddhism, and learn to be a bodhisattva, you should get close to a good teacher. What is a good teacher? That is the guru. In the exoteric teachings, it is called a virtuous teacher, while in the esoteric teachings, it is called a guru. The esoteric teachings specially changed the name to guru. He said, you should rely on the good teacher. What does rely on mean? To rely on and stay, never abandon. You should rely on the virtuous teacher. You should also serve the virtuous teacher. What does serve mean? Serving, offering, obeying, and doing things for the guru. Whether it is official or private. Whether it is the guru's personal affairs, or he has set up a Buddhist temple, helping him to handle the temple's affairs. Whether it is official or private, it is called serving a virtuous teacher. Why should we also be close to virtuous teachers? Nowadays, many people say, Guru, I don't want to take refuge. I can just listen to you teaching Buddhism on YouTube. You've already taught a lot of the Dharma. There were many people who taught Buddhism, but I still didn't understand after listening. I didn't know how to learn. Now I've learned a lot from you, which is enough. There is a huge difference. Listen to what Buddha Shakyamuni said. He told you to get close to your guru. You must get close to him, stand beside him, and serve him. Only then can you really learn something. If not, there are many things you will not learn. According to the rules of being a guru, if you are not close to, serve, and rely on him, the guru also has rules to follow. Some important dharmas cannot be taught to you. Some theoretical things can be taught to you. They are already taught on YouTube. You must take refuge first before you can get close to him. Some of my disciples, even after taking refuge, are always absent. When you go to them for help, they are nowhere to be found. This is not close. How can the guru teach a disciple if he does not understand him at all? If you do not understand him, what can you teach him? You can teach him some exoteric teachings, or theoretical things, superficial things. As for practical training, some easier practices can be taught. It is okay to teach these things. It will not violate the precepts. The guru will not violate the precepts by giving such kind of teaching. But if the guru does not understand him and still provide more advanced teachings, this is a violation of the precepts. That is, you should be close to virtuous teachers. Buddha Shakyamuni has already instructed that you should rely on virtuous teachers and never abandon them. If you learn for a while and then say goodbye, withdraw, and stop learning, what is this called? This is abandonment, a serious violation of the precepts. Therefore, Buddha Shakyamuni said that you should rely on him. You should rely on and stay. What does stay mean? Staying means never abandoning. Some disciples who have taken refuge say, "Guru, I want to withdraw from membership. I do not want to learn Buddhism." You also know that taking refuge requires taking vows. Those who take vows to the Guru, and then want to leave the association, are a big deal. However, if someone wants to leave the association, I do not usually explain these to them. I will not say that it is a big deal, or what will happen to you in the future. I will not talk about these things, because I think it is useless to force it. If your mind is not here, you will not learn even if I teach you. If you do not wish to learn, why should I force you? There is no pleasure in forcing. So, I usually do not quote these texts from the sutra. But today I will quote them. But if you really want to quit the association, I will not quote them again. I will not tell you not to do this. It is a serious violation of the precepts. Do not leave. I rarely say that. Unless I really feel sorry for this disciple, who has not violated a serious precept, and I do not want it to get to this point. I will say a few words. Otherwise, I will not say anything. If one really wants to quit, I cannot do anything. I think it is impossible to keep him, and there is nothing I can do. Serving means you must serve, obey, and do things. He said that you have to do these 3 things, and you have to do these 3 things at the starting point. What about during the process? It is stated that, if you want to purify and increase higher intention, that is, if you want to continue to improve and make your Dharma practice better and better, this is the intermediate process. Or if you want to complete the supreme enlightenment, you even want to become a Buddha in the end, this is the end result. He spoke of these 3 things. From the very beginning, you must get close to virtuous teachers, rely on virtuous teachers, and serve virtuous teachers. His words were very earnest and profound, just like my words so earnest and profound. Do you feel that things are repeated over and over again? The virtuous teachers have been mentioned many times. How many times has the word Guru been mentioned? We must rely on him, serve him, and be close to him. These have been repeated many times. How to rely on the Guru. The sutra teaches you that you should learn to do it like Bodhisattva Sadaparudita, relying on Bodhisattva Dhammadgata. Otherwise, you will not be able to succeed in your Dharma practice. So, how did Bodhisattva Sadaparudita do it? Because the original text of the sutra is very long, I will summarize it for you. First, you need to visualize that virtuous teacher being superior to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There is an explanation in the sutra. How is it explained? It states that because you cannot connect with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and you cannot receive their channels, and you cannot see the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on your TV to teach you the Dharma. Who do you rely on to teach you the Dharma? You cannot understand the sutras no matter how hard you try. Who do you rely on to teach you? You cannot succeed in your Dharma practice with your methods no matter how hard you try. Who do you rely on to teach you? You rely on your Guru, the virtuous teacher. So, you should visualize that your Guru is superior to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Why? Because all Bodhisattvas cannot stand in front of you to explain it to you, but your Guru can. He is the most capable of helping you. So you should visualize that he is superior to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is what the sutra teaches. You can find this sutra and read it yourself. I will not quote too many texts from the sutra. The second point is that you should see that offering to virtuous teachers is more meaningful than offering to all Buddhas. Why? If you offer to your guru, he will not die too soon, because he will not starve to death, and he will not have no money to see a doctor. If your guru dies, who will teach you? So, it states that you must make offerings to a virtuous teacher. If the virtuous teacher accepts your offerings, according to the law of cause and effect, he must repay you. How will he repay you? He will teach you the Dharma. This is like paying tuition. You cannot say that the guru does not need to charge tuition. The guru should teach for free. The guru is compassionate, and it is best if everything is free. Wouldn't that mean the guru will starve to death? This is not the law of cause and effect. If you work, you also need to collect wages. Otherwise, who will support you? Would you work for free? Why do you not work for free out of compassion? Why do you want to receive a salary? Because you must support your family, you must support yourself, because there is cause and effect. If you do something, you will get something in return. There is karma in itself, and the same is true for the guru. If you do not make offerings to your guru, what does that mean? It means you are mean to your guru, stingy and indebted. If you owe others, it is fine. But if you owe your guru, you will be short of blessings. So, you must not owe him. This is what Buddha Shakyamuni taught, not me. You can read the sutras. Many sutras state that we should make offerings to virtuous teachers. I will not quote too much, only a little. It is stated that you should see that making offerings to virtuous teachers is more meaningful than making offerings to all Buddhas. What does that mean? It means that they can teach you something. According to the law of cause and effect, if they owe you something, they will teach you. Thirdly, one should generously give up all his body, life, and wealth to rely on and make offerings to the virtuous teacher, Bodhisattva Dharmadgata. The sutra says that because Bodhisattva Sadaparudita was willing to give up his life and all his wealth to rely on and make offerings to the virtuous teacher, Bodhisattva Dharmadgata, you can see from the sutra that he did a lot of things, which is really amazing. Therefore, with this power, he progressed very quickly. He entered the path of Dharma practice very quickly. If you are the opposite, you do not like to learn from Bodhisattva Sadaparudita, and you like to be yourself, saying that the guru should teach for free, YouTube is also free, and now that I have taken refuge, why do you not teach me something? Why did you accept my refuge taking? Since I have taken refuge, you should teach. This is called doing the opposite. You will take many wrong paths. If the guru teaches you less, you will have to spend decades before you realize that you have taken the wrong path and have missed many things. So, how to achieve the rapid progress? You need to have faith, and you need to have faith in your guru. Of course, it refers to the real guru. But if you have faith in a fake guru, something bad will happen. To serve and make offerings means that you need to have blessings. To practice the Dharma diligently, you need to have merits. You must have these three things at the starting point, the intermediate process and end. This way you will make rapid progress. This is what Buddha Shakyamuni said. I am talking about a real guru, not a fake guru. I repeat this again, because I know that many people may randomly look for gurus after listening to me. When something terrible happens, do not say I have not warned you. Buddha Shakyamuni continued to talk about this. He talked about this in many sutras. I just randomly picked two passages. The Bodhisattva canon states that to obtain all the practices of a bodhisattva. If you want to cultivate to be like those very powerful bodhisattvas, and to have all the powers, achieve perfection in all parameter. You have the wisdom that can directly reach the other shore, the wisdom of emptiness, ground, patience, samadhi, supernatural powers, dharani, eloquence, merit, dedication, vows, and the Dharma. You have perfected all of these. What method do you need to use to obtain them? Everything depends on respect. You must respect. Respect is the foundation. Respect itself is the root. From respect, respect is life, and for its place. It is born with respect, grows with respect. It depends on respect, and respect is the cause. He repeated and repeated, saying respect many times. Everything depends on respect. Respect is the foundation. All of them are about respect. What does it mean? He said, if you want to succeed in your Dharma practice, and want to become a Buddha in the future, please understand the word when you become a Bodhisattva, which is respect. Who should you respect? Respect the person who teaches and saves you, especially the person who helps you to completely escape from samsara, or become a Buddha. Therefore, in order to teach my disciples to learn the word respect, I ask them to respectfully address their guru. I asked some of my disciples, do you know the names of your two gurus? They did not even know Guru Pema. Why did you take refuge in her? You could not even say her name. Why did you take refuge in her? It means that your refuge is false. Then, the refuge I accepted from you is also fake, which means that I do not need to take it seriously and there is no need to teach you anything or help you, right? It is impossible for you not to know the name of your own guru. In order to make my disciples understand respect, when they first enter our association, I want them to learn one thing. In the future, when you write to the guru, I will only accept emails. Other communication medias are not acceptable. Why? Because if the communication software does not include a name, it will cause disciples to violate the precepts. You know I love my disciples very much. I am completely following what the sutras say. I am worried that after they have taken refuge in me, they may accidentally violate the precepts, causing them to lose a lot of merits they have cultivated, and then I will be guilty. Of course, I do not want this to happen. I am very fond of them. So, as soon as they have entered the association, I would tell them, you can only contact me via email. Also, when you contact me via email, you must write my name, respected and honored guru. I said it should be written like this. Why? After reading this sutra, you will know that if I want you to be able to succeed in your Dharma practice, I must ask you to do this. If I consider you unable to do so, I will say it's fine. Let's not be so persistent. Just call me guru casually. That will be terrible. It will implicate my disciples. I will not implicate my disciples in this way. I have a Taiwanese disciple who has just taken refuge. He wrote to me and said, Guru, why do you ask me to address you respectfully and write, respected, when I write emails as soon as I have taken refuge? You also ask me to copy the samples you provided. This is just like many fake gurus in Taiwan. They all ask their disciples to call them Buddhas. So, won't you become like them? I felt this was funny. So, I told him directly and clearly, why do you want to take refuge here? There are many gurus in Taiwan. Why do you want to take refuge here? You should take refuge in them. Why do you want to take refuge in me? If you have taken refuge in us, you must follow our rules. When you choose a guru, do you choose whether his theory, or the Dharma he teaches on YouTube is clear and correct? Or do you choose whether his name is famous enough, and he has many followers? There is a certain guru who claims to have hundreds of millions of disciples around the world. Why don't you take refuge in him? Everyone knows that he is a fake guru. Only a fake guru will have many disciples. A real guru usually has only a few disciples, because he is strict, follows the rules of the Buddhist sutras and keep the precepts. Of course, he has very few disciples. Why do you come to take refuge in us? I ask you to respect your guru for your own good. I want you to plant merits. If you do not want to do it, you do not have to take refuge. It is not too late for you now. Even though you have taken refuge, we can terminate the refuge contract. It can be terminated with the consent of both parties. He was so scared that he dared not say anything. He immediately wrote to me and said, "No, no, my refuge is genuine." How could he ask such a question? He was arrogant. He had the guts to talk to the guru like this after taking refuge. Every time the guru asks you to do something, it is of course for a purpose. It is for your own good. Is it for my own good? What effect does it have if you call my titles? I will not gain weight, and it will not do any good. It is all for your own good. Every time you make a respectful statement, you will gain more merit. Accumulating merit will help you succeed in your Dharma practice in the future. I am doing this for your own good, planting some seeds that should be planted in your mind. Even so, you still right to challenge your guru. This may be because there are many gurus in Taiwan. Disciples in Hong Kong have never challenged me. They have never challenged me. Let's take a look at esoteric Buddhist tantras, which state very clearly that you must praise and rely on the guru as the foundation of Dharma practice. The four tantras state that when practicing the Vajrayana, you must first look forward to the guru's empowering and blessing. That is, you must constantly pray to the guru who in the future feels that the time is right and give you empowerments and blessings. What are the four tantras? I have explained it before. It is also called the four esoteric tantras or the four tantras, namely, the Kriya Tantra, the Charya Tantra, the Yoga Tantra, and the highest Yoga Tantra. You can refer to a video entitled The Classification of the Dharma Practice, available from our Dudjom Buddhist Association, International's TV channel on YouTube, for detailed explanation. All Dharma practices, from the lowest level to the highest level, say that you have to pray to your guru, and in the end, he will give you empowerments and blessings. Then you have to keep your vows and precepts, which are indispensable. You cannot lack any of them. This is the most basic thing in your Dharma practice. What is a vow? Whether you take refuge, receive empowerments, or accept any teachings, you must make a vow to the guru, vowing to always rely on him and to listen to his teachings. There are many vows. You must never violate them. Violating them is very serious. Among all the vows, the vow to the guru is the most important. If you lie to your guru or conceal something, it is a serious offense. Therefore, I keep telling my disciples not to lie with their eyes wide open. I have a disciple who likes to lie. He lies as soon as he opens his mouth. He is full of lies. I have been teaching him for 20 years and he keeps lying. Once, I said to him, "Do you know that deceiving and concealing the truth from the guru is a serious crime? Can you think things through before you speak? Don't speak so casually." He was too casual. People who are used to telling lies will casually tell lies. Do you know that the person in front of you is your guru? If you lie to him, it is a serious crime, which is more serious than lying to ordinary people. I have such a disciple. He really cannot change his habit of lying even after 20 years of teaching. Telling a lie is not only a violation of the lying in the 5 precepts and the 10 wholesome deeds, but also a violation of the vow. When you take refuge, you swear to your guru that you will not deceive your guru, but you deceive him. Remember, do not deceive and do not conceal. Concealing is the same as deceiving. Remember that this is a serious crime, and you must repent. After abiding in the vows and precepts purely, on the path of Dharma practice, you should further abide in the non-discriminatory yoga of the Guru deity to cultivate. There is no difference between the Guru and the deity. Yoga means correspondence. Only by practicing in this way can you achieve correspondence. It is called non-discriminatory yoga, which means non-discriminatory correspondence. You can achieve it by practicing in this way. If you think that the deity must be more powerful than the guru, as the guru cannot learn to fly in the air like the deity, but walks on the ground, so you do not need to respect him. If you think like this, you are wrong. What you are being taught is the teaching of the awareness of your mind, not whether he is still walking on the ground. The deity is what you visualize. Can you connect to the deity? Can the deity receive your antenna and appear in your picture to teach you the Dharma? No. Therefore, you should visualize the deity and the guru as one and the same. At the present stage, the guru is the most important to you. Buddha Shakyamuni said that no matter at the beginning, in the middle, or to the end, it is the most important. It is not just about the present stage. In short, it is the most important. Because the guru is the collection of merits that helps you achieve success. So, remember, it is everything that helps you achieve success, not the deity, but your guru. Without the guru, you cannot even visualize the deity. He is the collection of merits. So, you must remember this. For details, you can refer to the 50 stanzas of Guru Devotion, episodes 1 to 8, available from our Dudjom Buddhist Association, International's TV channel on YouTube. Let me tell you a real case, so you know how important it is. In the first volume of the collection of parables, there is a case. During the time of Buddha Kasyapa, there were two brothers. You must listen to this story carefully. Many people will fall into this situation and suffer in the future. The two brothers became monks and practiced Buddhism. The elder brother liked to meditate and observe the precepts. He observed the precepts and liked to meditate. Meditation is to cultivate the emptiness. Cultivating emptiness means that it is easy to understand how to escape from the cycle of reincarnation. He was devoted to seeking the truth, but not good at almsgiving. He did nothing, like cultivating in the mountains. He did not give alms or cared about anyone. He only cared about himself, observing the precepts and meditating. That is, he only cultivated merits. I have said that cultivating emptiness and observing the precepts are all a kind of power of merits. Your ability to keep the precepts is also a kind of merit power, a kind of merit. However, he did not do anything about blessings. That is, he did not give alms. Without giving alms, no sentient beings owe you anything. When you are in trouble in the future, and you would like to ask for help from these sentient beings, according to the law of cause and effect, they do not have the condition to help you, even though they want to. There are many kind-hearted people in our world. Although they want to help you, it does not correspond to their time and space. As a result, they are unable to help you. Without a condition, no matter how many good people out there, they will have nothing to do with you. This is because you have not given any alms. So, what is merit? It is the virtue accumulated through your cultivation method and the effort you put in. For example, working hard on the emptiness of self and others of the Hinayana, you can become an arhat. It is that simple. The younger brother liked to give alms, but he often violated the precepts. The two brothers kept reincarnating. In the era of Buddha Kasyapa, they were not successful in Dharma practice. They kept reincarnating for a long time until a Buddha was born at last. Buddha Shakyamuni was born. When Buddha Shakyamuni was born, the elder brother finally achieved success in his Dharma practice and became an arhat. However, he did not practice almsgiving, nor had he done so for many lifetimes. In his behavioral formula, he only cared about himself and cultivated in the mountains without almsgiving. As a result, his merits were very few. What was the result? He was always poorly clothed and hungry. Even when he went begging with a group of people, everyone got food except him. He always came back hungry. His younger brother was reborn as an elephant. This elephant was extremely powerful and could help fight and defeat enemies. The king liked it very much and gave it a lot of gold, silver, jewels and necklaces to decorate it. He also awarded it a city with hundreds of households. What are hundreds of households? That is, the grains paid by hundreds of households, just like us paying taxes. They had to pay grains, and these paid grains were given to elephants to eat. In other words, this elephant had no worries about food and clothing. Why gave to this elephant? Because he practiced almsgiving previously. Then why did he become an elephant? Because he violated the precepts. I want to tell my disciples this. You must remember. Do not think that you are great, because you have done a lot of almsgiving. I also want to tell all those who are learning the esoteric Buddhism, or the Dharma. Do not think that you are incredible, because you have done a lot of almsgiving. If you do not observe the precepts and violate them, the blessings you have sown will definitely be there. There is no need to worry that they will be gone, but the misfortunes you have caused will also definitely be there, too. Then, you would be reborn as an elephant, falling into the realm of animals. However, you will have no worries about food and clothing. You will be very elegant with great strength. You will be good at fighting. You will be loved by the king and everyone. The whole country will be fond of you. So what? You are an elephant. You will be ignorant. You cannot practice the Dharma anymore. You no longer have the path of Dharma practice. All has been cut off. This is what I want to tell my disciples. It is your blessings to have a guru, who is so good and treats you so strictly. I can tell you. All gurus will not discipline their disciples. They will only give you empowerments and teach you how to practice. They will not care about you so much, and will not care whether you have violated the precepts or not. You are told not to violate the precepts. After the precepts have been passed on to you, you have to abide by them on your own. They will not monitor you. But I often monitor my disciples. As soon as they violate the precepts, I will tell them that they have violated the precepts. However, they do not like to hear it. I want to tell them that I am actually doing this for your own good. You follow us and become our disciples. We do not want you to fall into the realm of animals one day. I do not want you to use all the blessings you have gained from Dharma practice, while you do not have much merit. It is like the necklaces hanging on the back of an elephant, with good food and shelter. I do not want you to be like this in the future. So, it is very important for you to have a strict guru. His elder brother had already become an arhat with supernatural powers. However, it was a time of great abstinence, which means a great famine. There was a shortage of food. He walked for 7 days and begged for 7 days, but still had nothing to eat. Finally, he got some coarse food, which enabled him to survive and not die. He happened to meet the elephant and saw that it was well fed and well clothed, while he was starving to death. As he had supernatural powers, he recognized that the elephant was his brother. He immediately walked up to his brother, grabbed his brother's elephant ear and said, "Both you and I are guilty." Why did he say this? After he finished speaking, a strange phenomenon occurred. The elephant actually thought about why the monk said this to it. Why did the elephant, who was so ignorant, know how to think? This was because his brother was an arhat. In order to save his younger brother, the elder brother used his supernatural powers, and tried his best to influence his younger brother to learn how to think. It turned out that the elephant had thoughts, so it thought about why the monk said that it was guilty. And it finally figured it out. It had gained the knowledge of past lives, and figured out its past lives. It realized what it had done in many past lives to lead to its current state. Although it had good fortune, it had to be an elephant, an animal, and could not practice the Dharma. What would happen to this elephant after seeing all the causes and conditions of its past lives? It felt depressed that it stopped eating and drinking. Why did this strange phenomenon occur? I will explain it to you now. The elder brother had supernatural powers. To save his younger brother, he felt that he needed to awaken his younger brother's awareness. If his awareness was not awakened, he would not know that he had become an animal, and would continue to be so forever due to a repetition effect. And he would only become more and more ignorant, not intelligent. Only by awakening his awareness could he be saved and freed from the animal body. If he wanted to escape from the animal body, what should he do? He must die. But he must die after awakening. It should not die as it is now. You cannot kill the elephant and ask it to reincarnate. This would be useless. It must wake up before it dies. So, the elder brother approached the elephant, grabbed its ears, and said to it, "We are both guilty. You may find it strange. He did a lot of almsgiving. What crimes could he have committed? He violated the precepts. The crime is the crime obstacle which will block you. Violating the precepts itself is a crime obstacle. If we take the precepts, I have said that the precepts are like an alarm clock that can wake you up. It is a kind of awareness. If you receive the precepts, you will remind yourself that you cannot do this or that. In this way, you will not fall into the animal realm, which means you can be saved. Even if you have fallen into the animal realm, you will suddenly wake up. Because of this reason, you have fallen into the animal realm, and then you will have the knowledge of past lives. That is, you will wake up and die after you have awakened. You will have the opportunity to be reborn in a better place. If you die as you are now, you still die with an elephant brain. You will have the chance to continue being just as stupid. Although we will recover our Buddha nature after we die and leave our bodies, I am worried that the karma of your animal body is too grave, and your recovered awareness lasts less than a second. Then, you will not be able to save yourself. In less than a second, you will return to the state of the animal body's brain, which is bad. So, the elder brother wanted to wake it up. So, he used his supernatural powers to grab its ears and talk to it, and also used his supernatural powers to make the elephant think about this matter. After the elephant knew about its past lives, it stopped eating and drinking and wanted to starve itself to death. It wanted to starve itself to death, escape from the animal body, and then be reborn human with a clear awareness, to continue the Dharma practice. This passage of the sutra talks about this case. That is, I want to remind my disciples of one thing. I do not want you to violate the precepts one day. I repeatedly tell you that you have violated the precepts, but you think that I am an idiot and refuse to listen to me. I will have no way to deal with this. I have told you many times that if you have violated the precepts you must repent. But you refuse to repent. There is nothing I can do to help you. I really have no way to help you. If you do not repent, I only know one thing: you will definitely fall into the 3 lower realms in the future, but I cannot tell you. If I say it, it will be like cursing the disciple. The disciple would say, "Guru, you keep saying that I have violated the precepts, and will be an animal, or a hungry ghost in the future. Do you want to scare me to death?" They will say this. So, I usually do not say it. I will not say it. I will only say that you must repent and repent quickly. Why? If one is willing to repent, I can help him. If he is not willing to repent, I cannot help him. I can only advise. So, you must remember to repent quickly. This case has actually been distorted. If you do not believe it, you can go online to see how many people talk about this case. They say that this is not the practice of blessings and merits. How have those who teach the Dharma misinterpreted it? So, you must be careful when you listen to others teaching the Dharma. They have interpreted the elder brother to be very good. He later knew how to explain and teach the Dharma well. Think about it. If he knew how to explain the Dharma, it means he helped many people, and helping many people would accumulate a lot of merits. So, how could he have nothing to eat? Isn't it illogical? They also said that the elder brother was very wise, but he did not cultivate blessings and did not give alms. So, he had nothing to eat and starved to death. Are they mistaken? A wise person knows how to cultivate in a balanced way. He will not cultivate one side or the other. How can he not cultivate merits? A wise person will not neglect cultivating merits. He will cultivate both blessings and merits. What is this? Those people have interpreted everything wrong. If you explain it wrong, it will be a big deal. Everyone will mistakenly think that wisdom is not important and that you must cultivate more blessings. If you think that wisdom is not important, I want to tell you now to cultivate the 5 wisdoms, the 5 kinds of wisdom. The 5 wisdoms can further enhance your awareness and can help you become a Buddha. You say that wisdom alone is useless. Are you mistaken? That is how they misinterpret things. In fact, why am I quoting this sutra? Someone who taught this sutra only said that there were 2 brothers. The younger brother turned into an elephant, with all the necklaces on its body. He also made a stanza to describe this case. I specifically quote this sutra to tell them that the entire sutra does not say that the brother was very wise, only cultivating wisdom. There is no such saying. However, there are many people on the internet, not just one, but many people, among whom there are great sages, who are very famous. Very famous, great sages, also say this, and it is all distorted. So, I deliberately speak out on this. There are 4 words written here. Look carefully. They are observe precepts and meditate. He was practicing emptiness on the self of the person and very observant of the precepts. Practicing emptiness on the self of the person can lead to the attainment of arhat, but you also need to cultivate blessings. It does not say here that he cultivated wisdom. Do you know what wisdom is? Wisdom is unique to Mahayana exoteric and esoteric Buddhism, who talk about cultivating wisdom. The Hinayana does not talk about this and only talks about meditation and the like. Therefore, it is interpreting the Buddhist sutras incorrectly. If the interpretation is incorrect, sentient beings will go in the wrong direction in their Dharma practice, which will get many people into trouble. I am talking about blessings and merits, not wisdom. A wise person will not starve to death, but this brother almost starved to death. How can you distort this sutra in your teaching? So, you must remember that it is good to give alms to accumulate blessings, but do not violate the precepts. If you violate the precepts, what can you do? You need a good guru to remind you. This younger brother had an older brother, who was now his guru. He immediately went to remind him, saying that we were both guilty, that you should repent quickly. After you repent, you will be enlightened and awakened. After you are awakened, you will be able to be reborn in a better place easily when you die. The brotherhood said, both you and I were guilty. My sin is that I did not give alms, so now I am starving like this. Your sin is that you violated the precepts. So, reminders are needed. Similarly, if you have a guru, he will remind you. A responsible guru will remind his disciples of violating precepts. The guru cherishes his disciples, just like the elder brother cherishes his younger brother. He will remind his younger brother of his sins and wake him up. What should we rely on? Ordinary people rely on precepts. Precepts are like alarm bells to remind us. We rely on our good awareness to remind us. We rely on our gurus to remind us. So, when the guru says that you have violated the precepts, you should thank him instead of being angry with him and hating him as if he is the worst guru. You should never do that. The guru's responsibility is to remind his disciples not to deviate. Otherwise, the consequences will be unpredictable. This is the reason. To save his brother from suffering for 3 great asamkhya kalpa, and to be reborn as an animal, if one continues to be reborn as an animal, he will eventually fall into hell. Therefore, even though he was so hungry that he had difficulty walking, he was not afraid of being trampled to death by the elephant. He would immediately walk towards the elephant and grab its ears to talk, just to save his brother. So, we should remember to cultivate both blessings and merits. Never say, "You're the guru. You're compassionate. You should teach us for free, no offerings or service required. You ask me to do Buddhist things. I'm not free." Never do this. So, remember. Otherwise, you will get into trouble. Cultivating merits, but not doing anything for blessings is problematic. Also, what are the consequences if you do not have merit? If you do not learn the method taught by Buddha Shakyamuni, the one taught earlier, the guru cannot give you important teachings. Otherwise, the guru will also violate the precepts. This is because you will overdraw your merits. There are things he cannot teach you. My disciple wrote another letter, and you all need to know what he said in this letter. He said, "My father has always been a loving and kind father in my heart. In fact, I have wanted to ask my gracious guru before, whether it would be beneficial for me to put my father's photo in the Buddhist altar. I never had the chance to ask. He is a disciple who had taken refuge not long ago." He continued, "But today, when I saw my father's photo, I wondered, isn't my father a manifestation of loving kindness and compassion? Since Buddha has thousands of forms, and all sentient beings can become Buddhas, I can use my father's form, which represents Maitreya Bodhisattva, to remind me of loving kindness and compassion. Since the Dharma lies in the heart, the Buddha's images and Buddha statues are only to remind disciple to uphold compassion, mercy, tolerance, and love. The real requirement is in the heart." According to this line of thought, and since the Buddha has thousands of appearances, disciple asks why one should be obsessed with visualizing the deity to be equal to the appearance of the Dharma image and Buddha statue. Why can't I visualize my father as Maitreya Buddha? I should ask myself, what is the appearance of loving kindness, and what is the appearance of compassion, etc. Guru, is this correct? I began to experience the selflessness of all dharmas, of the 4 Dharma seals in Guru's notes. Is this correct? Since there is selflessness of all dharmas, I won't be so persistent. I don't have to visualize the appearance of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I can visualize my father's appearance to remind myself of compassion. Everything is about no self. Dharma is not sought outside. And Buddha is not worshipped outside. It is in our hearts. We should not abide in the appearances of Buddhas, but resonate with the attitude in our hearts. I ask the great Guru to enlighten me whether this idea is on the right path. His question was, I want to put my father's photo in the Buddhist altar. Because every time I see my father's photo, I will think of compassion and love, which can cultivate my compassion. My father should be the same as Buddha's and should be placed in the altar. We all have the same Buddha nature. You must remember that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature, but that does not mean that all sentient beings are Buddhas. Sentient beings have the Buddha nature, but their Buddha nature, their awareness, are obscured. The Buddha's awareness has been restored 100% without deviation. So, sentient beings are not equal to Buddhas. They have not yet become Buddhas. They need to practice the Dharma to become Buddhas. They have the Buddha nature, which has been obscured and needs to be restored. These are two different things. My disciple knew this. He said, all sentient beings can become Buddhas. That is, they have the opportunity to become Buddhas. So, can we place photos of ordinary people on the Buddhist altar for worship? I will explain this issue today. You must remember that after you learn this, you can solve many problems in the future. The images of Buddha status are actually a kind of common consensus among sentient beings. You are now in the three realms. Do not think that your mind is uniquely owned by you. In fact, you are connected with many people. What is the purpose of visualizing the Buddha? Why does the Guru teach you this way? Why does the Guru not teach you to visualize who you like the most? For example, if you like your wife the most and you see her and think she is very wise, then you can visualize her appearance. Or if your mother loves you very much and is very compassionate, then you can visualize her appearance. Then why do we teach you to visualize the appearance of the Buddha statue? Because this is a kind of common consensus, and with common consensus, there is resonance. There is a common vibration. Then this vibration will be connected to the Buddha statue, the real Buddha and Bodhisattva. This is the first reason. Therefore, when we visualize a Buddhas or Bodhisattvas with form, that is, before we ourselves have cultivated to the point where we can directly enter the Dharma realm, the state of oneness, you are not in the Dharma realm, the state of oneness now. Do not get your position wrong. Where are you? In the three realms. The three realms are very complicated. You must think clearly about everything. Otherwise, there will be a result. In order to obtain the assistance of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we must visualize the forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Why? Because in this way I can be connected with his vibration, so he can help me. If I succeed in connecting with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, I can directly enter the Dharma realm, the state of oneness, or be reborn in a Buddha's pure land, with the help of the power and wisdom of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If you connect with your father or your wife, can you do that? This is not possible, because the vibration is different, right? Also, in the training of no-form emptiness, you cannot be attached to any form. Yes, that is correct. That includes your own father's appearance. You said, not to be attached, so I shouldn't be attached to the appearances of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Why not visualize my father's appearance and put my father's photo on the Buddhist altar? This is also a kind of attachment. Is your emptiness so powerful that you can directly enter the state of oneness? If so, the answer is yes. You do not need to visualize anything, including your father's appearance. You do not need to visualize a Buddha. However, if you have not reached this level first, you are still in the three realms, and second, your emptiness is still in the initial stage. You have not reached that level yet. You have not reached the highest level of the great perfection, and you have started visualizing that there is nothing. Your sins and obstacles continue to remain in the three realms. How can you empty them? If you cannot do it, then isn't that a big deal? It is really a big deal. So, you have to remember this. The no-form emptiness is only for training, not real. It is for training. You are in the training emptiness. You are not wrong. You should not be attached to any form. If this is the case, please abide in the awareness. If you do not have the awareness, many aspects of your life will go wrong. If you place your father's image on the altar in order to develop compassion, you will cause other sentient beings to feel disgusted. Do not forget that you are not the only one in this world and space. You say that you can hide in the room, close the door, and no one can see you. Is that okay? I am afraid that the whole space, the whole spirit world, can see you. Many sentient beings can see you. All these sentient beings have a lot of greed, hatred, and ignorance. They have a consensus on the appearances of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They think that the altar should be placed with the appearances of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, not with the appearance of a sentient being. They will feel disgusted. They think that it is not appropriate to put Buddhas and Bodhisattvas side by side with ordinary beings. These sentient beings will have a backlash in their minds. If they have a backlash, it will have a bad impact on your father. What will happen? It will implicate your father. Some sentient beings in the same realm as your father may make fun of your father, harass your father, and question why he teaches his son to do this. This will implicate your father, which is a big deal. So, you should not do this. This involves the relationships between yourself, your father, and all other types of sentient beings. Therefore, anything that violates the common consensus must be handled with caution, because it will attract a lot of karma. You cannot estimate how powerful it is. So, do not do it, because it will have a very bad impact on your father. You will harm him. There is a saying out there, used to make fun of others. Why do you put people on the altar? Putting that person on the altar means that he becomes the target of public criticism and everyone is watching. Your father will be the first to be put in a disadvantageous position. Your father may not agree. Have you got your father's consent? The law of cause and effect operates in the three realms, involving many third parties. We cannot just rely on emptiness to explain everything. What ability do you have to withstand everything? The gurus or founding gurus are different. Why do you put the guru's photo on the altar? He is also a human being, not a Buddha. What is a Buddha? The sutra earlier states that Buddha Shakyamuni wants you to visualize your guru as superior to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. When you make offerings to him, you should think that he is superior to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Why does the Buddha say this? Of course it makes sense. This is what the Buddha taught, not what I said. Because the gurus or founding gurus cultivate emptiness. Some gurus do not cultivate emptiness and do not teach emptiness. You must first see clearly. If someone has achieved some accomplishment in Buddhism, it is also okay. He has benefited many sentient beings and helped many people, thus creating a different kind of consensus. There is a group of people who agree with him. He is respected to a certain extent and recognized in the consensus, so it will not have a bad influence. So, what do we call these? To rely on. The guru you rely on, rather than the one you are attached to, or the one you abide the form in. You may ask, since you say that we should cultivate emptiness and not abide in any form, as stated in the Diamond Sutra, then why do you still put the guru's photo on the altar? Isn't this abiding in forms? You teach me to visualize the appearance of the guru, the appearances of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Isn't this abiding in forms? You are right. This is abiding in forms, but this abiding in forms is different from that abiding in forms. That is, when you have not yet cultivated to the point where you can directly enter the Dharma realm, the state of oneness, without any form, and when you are still in the three realms dealing with the entanglements of other sentient beings, you must abide in some forms that can help you have a good magnetic field. For example, you can connect with the magnetic field of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and let them help you. You can connect with your guru and let him help you. What can he help you with? When you can enter the state of oneness in the future, as long as you can enter it, you can really achieve not abiding in any form. In fact, not abiding in forms is teaching you to do the training. That is not real, it is a training. It is training you to learn in advance how not to abide in forms in your daily life. If you are used to not abiding in forms, when you die and enter the Dharma realm, you will be able to not abide in forms immediately. However, if you are used to abiding in forms all the time, you cannot enter. Or you say, if I visualize my guru, will I abide in forms? The Guru teaches you emptiness, and when you visualize the Guru, you visualize emptiness at the same time, so you can enter emptiness. The key point is how to make the transition from form to formless. The key point lies in whether your Guru has taught you emptiness. If your Guru has taught you emptiness, he can help you with the transition into that emptiness state when you visualize him. You will not abide in the form of his appearance, but in the state of emptiness that he teaches you. So, this is the key point. Whether the Guru can teach emptiness becomes one of the key points. If the Guru you follow only asks you to visualize his appearance without teaching emptiness, this is a big deal. I can tell you that you have no chance of becoming a Buddha through the current body. You will lose the opportunity. If you do not have the correct Guru to correct you, it is easy for a Dharma practitioner to go astray. Fortunately, this disciple trusted the Guru and told him what he was thinking, so the Guru told him not to do that. So, you must remember to abide in the awareness and achieve the balance. For all things, I can tell you that the key word is balance. If you cannot balance, you will get into trouble. You must balance. What are the differences between the Dharma practice methods of the three realms and the Dharma realm, and where is the connection? It is to balance. This disciple is very filial, so he has this idea. I really appreciate his filial piety. In fact, if he wants to help his father, it is not difficult. Why? At a higher level teaching of the four preliminary practices, we teach disciples to use specific visualizations to help their loved ones, especially their parents, to enter the refuge tree, or even to help them escape from the cycle of reincarnation. There is a set of visualization methods specifically designed to help do this. It is a visualization, not just a theory. If this disciple continues to learn, he will have a practical way to help his father and mother, and all the people he wants to help. So, he does not need to worry. We are only talking about one thing, that is, you should not deviate due to some unbalanced practice methods. You should really cultivate the awareness. What is the awareness? How to cultivate it? Firstly, this has actually been taught in the previous session. I will talk about it again, because it is the most important point. What do you actually need to be aware of? You need to be aware of all actions of your body, speech, and mind, and whether they are in line with the Buddhist precepts, correct perceptions and knowledge, and balance in the middle way. Therefore, balance is very important and is a definition of Dharma practice. Secondly, you need to be aware of the transformation process of your mind. You need to go through the 5 steps of the mind cultivating procedure to transform mind into the 5 wisdoms. Thirdly, you need to be aware of the improvement of the 5 wisdoms and guide them into the state of oneness of emptiness, neither existence nor voidness. This is afflictions are indeed bodhi. What you need to be aware of and do is the true awareness. The most important method of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice, to develop that awareness, is these 5 steps. You must practice it together with the 10 beliefs, the 10 faiths. It is mentioned in the Sutra of the Garland of a Bodhisattva's primary karmas that cultivating the 10 beliefs requires 1 to 3 asamkhya kalpa before one can reach the initial level, that is, the Bodhisattva with initial resolute vows. Continuing the Dharma practice from that can one receive the empowerment. However, do you know that 1 kalpa is 4.32 billion years? The Sutra for Humane Kings states that 10,000 kalpa means 10,000 kalpa of walking the right path, advancing and retreating uncertainly, like a feather floating unsteadily. That is, the uncertainty of things will cause you to cultivate for a very long time. Treatise on the Awakening of Faith states that one will need 10,000 kalpa to cultivate the 10 beliefs before he can achieve success. Treatise on the Awakening of Faith states that one will need 10,000 kalpa to cultivate the 10 beliefs before he can achieve success. Then, how do we become a Buddha in the present lifetime? When cultivating the 10 beliefs, you must use the fastest way. That is, you must apply the mind-cultivating procedure to develop the 5 wisdoms and work with the Diamond Sutra's oral pith instructions. Only by developing these 5 kinds of wisdom and working with the 2 oral pith instructions, not abiding in any form, and not abiding anywhere to arouse the mind, can you quickly succeed in your Dharma practice. The speed depends on how well you can apply these teachings. The goal of the mind-cultivating procedure is to integrate the 10 beliefs into the awareness and train the 5 wisdoms to be developed. Therefore, if you devalue wisdom, you will have a big problem. The 10 beliefs are in fact 10 kinds of awareness. Enhance the awareness to not abiding in any form, and cultivate the 10 beliefs based on this. Combine not abiding anywhere to arouse the mind with the 10 beliefs to thoroughly cure all difficulties and shortcomings in mind and daily life. Apply not abiding anywhere to arouse the mind to complete your perfect enlightenment. Remember, not abiding in forms does not mean accepting, but doing nothing. Instead, we should work with the 10 beliefs and do it without attachment. Not abiding anywhere to arouse the mind means actively accepting or actively facing it. And we should work with the 10 beliefs with the agile awareness to develop the wisdom and reflect on all actions. Let's say it again. The mind-cultivating procedure is to accept, which can develop the wisdom of equality. Questioning, analyzing, and root-finding can help you develop the discriminating wisdom. Treating can help you develop all-accomplishing wisdom. When these 3 kinds of wisdom are developed and you successfully solve problems and correct shortcomings in the mind, and if you have done all of these without abiding in forms, you can enter the mirror-like wisdom. The mirror-like wisdom must be coordinated with emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, the state of oneness. If you do not abide in forms, you can enter the Dharmadhatu wisdom. After entering the Dharmadhatu wisdom and combining it with your compassion and bodhicitta, you can 100% restore the perfect enlightenment of your bodhicitta. In this way, you can become a Buddha. Our teaching today ends here. If you wish to review these contents in detail, you can watch the videos available from Dudjom Buddhist Associational, International's TV channel on YouTube. Episodes 20 to 41 of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series all discuss methods of cultivating the mind and Dharma practice. In fact, the reason for our anger, as mentioned earlier, is because some of our needs are not met. And these 5 needs must be worked with the Dharma to see if our Dharma practice methods can resolve them. Otherwise, your Dharma practice methods will become flawed. We have already discussed the practice methods of the Hinayana. Many of the practice methods of the Mahayana have been lost, resulting in many shortcomings. There are many teachings of the Vajrayana, afflictions are indeed bodhi, that we have not yet taught will be taught in the next session.